Welcome to Full Throttle Talk, the podcast where horsepower meets conversation. From supercars to classic legends, high revving tech to motorsport mayhem, we cover it all. Straight from the driver's seat, whether you're a gearhead or racer or just love the thrill of the open road, you're in the right place. Buckle up, hit the gas, and let's go full throttle into today's episode.
Of like, you show me a photo of a twisty, empty back road with no one on it, and then a roadside that looks like the small intestine, and that is like pheromones to me. I mean, I literally look at that and I'm like, oh, it's like I want to hold the photo trifold and just like a Playboy. And I
Hey, Paul,
mean,
what's the suspension that you got on Tortuga there?
bone stock.
Stock? What is
Everything
it? Like a
about that
B6
car.
Bilstein or something like
Yeah,
that?
just Bilstein strut inserts. I mean, I don't
Yep.
even have rally crazy setup. I just have, you know, I mean, here's the funny thing is we went forever trying. I wanted to raise it really high to get as much ground clearance. And I even had Joey Seeley fuck with it for a while. And he's like, I got it as high as I can, but then I'm at zero negative camber, which sucked on the front. Took it to Tony Callis and he's scratching his head. He's like, I don't understand. And then he goes, wait a minute, runs in the back. He's got a box of these inserts, which Dave, you'll know about. Basically, when we got US cars here, the way they did the suspension, because we had US ride height laws with headlights,
Right.
they had
Right.
this spacer. And he's like, I have never in 40 years put a spacer back in a 911. He put it back in, the car aligned perfectly. And most people don't realize they go, oh, my green car is a safari car. It's
Right.
US ride height. That is all
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
That's
Tony.
is that
Tony's
what it
really
is? That's all
smart.
it's set to?
What's that?
That's all it's set to is US ride height.
US ride height, and it's amazing the amount of ground clearance you have. But anyway, so Tim, I hope you got, like I assume you had to go figure out your 19-digit safe combination with laser whatever to pull out this rare watch that you had to probably buy, well, a Ferrari to get just to have allocation of the watch.
Oh, I'm so glad when you're winding down on your pain medicine, Paul. It's so refreshing to
No, these are fresh stitches pain. This is just pure
Yeah,
pain coming
fresh
through.
stitches.
well,
It's
in
so
case
like
you
you have
guys
to show us a scar here, Paul.
in case you didn't figure it out, this is your favorite weekly podcast, and this is Full Throttle Talk. And on Paul's idea was to start the recording prior to actually officially starting. And obviously, it's kind of fun to listen to. I did it last week. But just to go through the agenda of what we're going to be talking about, so you don't have to worry that you're going to waste a couple hours of your life listening to four guys just yammer about anything. We're talking about what'd you do in cars this week? We're going to share some automotive news. We're going to talk about something I think all of us are really looking forward to. I have a feeling Casey's going to run away with this one. Resto-Mod Bubble. Are we just getting started? We're going to talk about really resto mods versus, for example, buying a factory correct car, dare I say. We're going to talk about what are the most overhyped cars today that will not hold interest or value over time. That will be kind of a fun topic. We're going to talk about this week's in auction, and we have a couple bonus sections as well. So, guys, let me start out by asking you, what did you do in cars this week?
Wait, aren't we going to talk about watches? I thought we were just like a really quick.
We could talk about, if you want to start out by talking about watches, let's
Yeah.
go.
All right. I have a watch I promise none of you are wearing today. And in fact, I don't think any of you would own. And let me just show it and see if you guys can guess what it is. Any guesses?
Mm-mm.
And no, I did not get this out of a Japanese vending machine.
That's what it looks like.
I
The
know.
claw.
It's in pistachio. Okay, I'll give you a hint. I'll tell you the name of the watch. You tell me why it's significant. Icopod. Oh, you guys are not watch people. I
I
am
think I
sorry.
heard Matt Farah talk about on one of his
He did.
podcasts
So,
before.
so Icopod is a brand that it was famously made famous by Mark Newsom, who designed all the significant Apple products. Mark Newsom is the one who really kind of pulled Apple. Him and Steve Jobs were like that. He was an industrial designer, made some phenomenal, the iPhone, the iWatch, the iMacs in the 90s with all the colors. That was all Mark Newsom. This came out in the 90s. And if you notice, I mean, the kind of shape, sort of the pillowcase shape of this weird shape was sort of the inspiration for the iWatch, which if you look at like Matt Farah does have one from the 90s, and it looks very much like an iWatch. So there it is. They're not expensive. They've been rebranded, but there you
I
go.
want to go next.
You
Yeah.
go next.
Apple Watch Series 7 with an IcoPod rubber band.
Oh,
Wow, deep cut, Casey.
Casey, did you watch the Apple thing yesterday? Them trying to sell you yet another new Apple Watch. Did you watch it or you care at all?
I
I
watched
I
it.
I only I've got a really good buddy that works for Apple that I've sold a couple of cars to, and I've been holding out because every time I plug my phone into a wall, it says phone is too hot, will resume charging when it cools down, but it never cools down because it's charging. So I really need a new telephone. I've been holding out for like the last 6 months. So I did not look at anything other than that. The only thing that I traditionally care about at those events are Apple phones and how they are improving CarPlay.
Well, can we just
CarPlay is a big thing for me.
the atrocious outfits that whoever chooses those for them, no real human wears outfits like that. I'm not exactly what one would call a couture expert, but wow, I'll just leave it out there. And yes, I was just there for the phone as well, which all of us should get because the video aspects of that are just pretty extraordinary. I thought that was amazing, especially the zoom. It's incredible for a mirrorless camera. I'll go next. This is a watch that I bought 2 years ago. And no, it's not a Rolex, and no, it's not a Ferrari watch, or a Porsche watch. Am I getting it all out of the way right away? It's an
Yes.
Omega. It's an Omega. One of these
Bond.
all
Sure.
titanium watches.
Is that a Bond watch?
Yeah,
Yeah, very
it is.
cool.
But yeah, thank you. But this one's
So it's
this.
Aston Martin related.
No,
Ooh.
it's not. Gosh, Paul, you're so abusive. But I don't know if you guys know this. It's just a fun little nerd fact. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but you guys see that little upside down? It looks like a tent. It's a V upside down with a line through the middle. So
Mhm.
the cool thing about British military is when you join the military. I don't know if this is still true, but it was. They will give you, your watch, and they'll give you your whatever, whatever, and all those things have the little military stamp on them. So if you are wearing a watch with that stamp on it outside of the military, you probably stole it from when you were in the service, or you obviously could have bought it afterwards, I suppose. But this is to denote that it's actually still owned by the British government. So I thought that was funny. Not this one, obviously, but
I was
You
about
steal it
I
from
was about to call
MI5 is
Interpol
after
on
you.
you.
yeah, it could be
Yes,
happen.
yes, Interpol. I am wearing the inexpensive twin to that. This is my Seiko Moonwatch Earth version. So
Nice. I
not
like
Seiko,
that.
excuse me, Omega Speedmaster, just the plastic case stuff, just a super
No,
casual, throw it on quick.
Dave, that's
You don't worry about it.
bioceramic, not
Yes.
plastic.
Okay, fair enough.
Bioceramic.
Fair
Oh my
enough. It
God.
is. I feel the bio-ness of it, or the ceramic part. I don't know.
Did
It doesn't feel like China to me.
it's Omega that made the watch for the moon landing watches, right? But the modern
Correct.
versions of the moon landing watches where they're made of different materials, those are pretty badass, actually. Those are cool.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what
Well,
Dave's talking about.
Well, his
Yeah,
his
say again.
his
that's
is
a
a swatch
swatch.
version. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
mine's
so
a Swatch version. Mine's
so
a
the
cheap.
Speedmaster has evolved, but it's still kind of the same. The movements are of course different, but like where the dot is over the 90 and those sorts of things. And then of course you could get layered crystal, or you could get Hesalite on one side, which is the way that the watch went to the moon with a solid back. But other than that, I mean, watch people will definitely disagree with me. But
And,
on average, I do like Dave's watch. I'd buy one of those in a second.
oh yeah.
and sacrilege, by the way, in the early 2000s at the Richard Nixon Library, they had Buzz Aldrin coming and doing a talk. I went with my friend because, long story, I'm loosely related to Buzz Aldrin. He was signing books or whatever, and he was wearing a Rolex. And I was so
Ooh.
disappointed. I felt like
Jeez.
Ooh.
he gave up. So
Oh boy,
anyway,
I can already see where this is going to go in this today's show. I'm already getting the vibe. All right, so so you guys are moving things around on the agenda, which is fine. What did you guys do in cars this week? You can go first, Casey. You had a very interesting story to share. I saw.
So I don't want to get too deep into it, but just when it comes to auction cars, be it physical auction or online auction, if somebody is really considering a car, make sure that you either know what you're looking for, or you know somebody that you can talk to who knows what they're looking for. I receive cars from clients all the time that come from online and physical auctions. And I had one show up, actually, I had two show up this week. One was okay, but needs some work. The other was not okay. Issues that I found within the first 3 minutes of inspecting the car. And just kind of, I'm urging people, like I talked to Paul earlier this week about some vetting of a vehicle that he was talking over with a client, but it's really important that you know somebody that knows the car inside and out so that you can feel comfortable with your purchase, especially if you're spending almost seven figures. I mean, it's really important because there is a possibility that you could get burned. Um,
Can I ask a question about that, Casey?
sure.
So would you feel the same way if you were buying it from Bruce Canepa, for
No,
example? Okay,
no,
so
I would not.
that's the bottom line. So basically, yeah,
All
I
mine.
would.
you would.
I mean, here's the reality. And I tell people this all the time. Good dealers occasionally will sell a bad car, usually out of ignorance. Bad dealers will occasionally get a good car because they'll just stumble over it. I don't care if a Porsche dealer's selling it. I don't care if your dad is selling it. It's just cheap insurance to get inspection. It really is. And the number of times I have seen stories like Casey's relaying happen, it's incredible. Now, that being said, it's all about money and how it relates to you. When I bought my Isuzu Impulse, it was literally an impulse. It was 4 hours of an auction left to go, and I had to make a gamble. And I figured if I got the car and it was worth half of what I thought I paid for it because I made some big mistakes, I was okay with losing that money because that money proportionate to my income and everything else, we're talking $4,000, was okay for the gamble because I couldn't find the car anywhere else at all.
Sure.
But
The
I mean,
PPI
maybe,
would cost you 10% of the value of the car, right? I mean,
yeah. So I don't know with some people, but I mean, I see it over and over again. That we were talking earlier this week, that guy was looking at a 993 back east at a Porsche dealer. So many questions. And I just said, look, if you want to pursue this car, go for it. But find an independent near that Porsche dealer and get it inspected. Because
Oh,
how
yeah.
much would you be bummed if you got the car and there was a 5-digit bill needed to be done to make that car safe and usable?
So I'll go back to your statement, Tim. Yes, I think the stuff that I see come out of Canepa is amazing. I have inspected cars that have come from him. I've seen 911 S or say 959 Canepa cars that are amazing. I'm a trust but verify kind of person. So yes, if somebody says yes, it came from them, all about it, I'd still want to go put eyes on it.
I was just using Bruce's because I think everyone will agree in the industry he's pretty much, crown jewels of people to buy cars from. I mean,
But
you
he
know,
makes mistakes. We sold a 993 RS. My client took it to Bruce for an oil change. $100,000 later, he had an engine rebuild. Uh,
did he get it for
um,
free? Did he have to
no,
pay
I
for
think he had the oil change possibly, and we got
it?
two beautiful three-ring binders. The best documentation of an engine rebuild I've ever seen. We turn around and sell that car, goes to a client who decides to have Tony Callis inspect it. Bottom line is that engine needed to be torn down again and rebuilt.
Wow.
And because of all the photo documentation, Tony saw it. They used the wrong washer or nut or whatever. There was something that they just made a human error.
Uh-huh.
And to get to it, you had to take the heads off. You didn't have to split the case, but you had to take the pistons and cylinders out. Basically, you had a $24,000, let's go fix that little tiny stupid thing. So,
stuff
So,
happens. It's definitely stuff happens. That's for sure. I
so
mean,
Dave, what
you
did you
gotta
do?
live there.
What did you do in cars this week? Anything interesting you want to share with the
It's a
group?
good, I mean, it's a good dovetail off of these guys right here because the car behind me is one that I delivered and stressed about for basically, the better part of last week and over the weekend, which was I sold this car, which is a 82 911 Targa in wine red, had been repainted, nice car, a lot of miles, but a great compression leak down and some paperwork that suggested a top end rebuild. Car had 170,000 miles on it. Um, and so, as always happens, client gets a test drive. We go through the whole thing. And ultimately, let me pull this over here. That's probably a little bit better.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry. There we go. I just had the mic in the wrong spot here. Apologize. Um, but I'll drive the cars a little bit because I want to make sure this car is great before it gets delivered to the customer. So I'm driving the car, and all of a sudden, boom! I go run down to Home Depot with it, and I come back out to get in the car, and the car's got a hot start problem. Now I cannot get the car to hot start after I've driven it for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So of course, I'm not delivering a car to a client with a problem. So, we did all the rest of the punch list items that we'd agreed to, but then my team spent the next 2 days going through this thing, and it was right up until um, what I guess I'll say is the witching hour before we actually sorted it out. We put a new warm-up regulator on it first, typical moves on a CIS car, warm-up regulator. We did the fuel distribution head on it next. Neither of those two items changed anything on the car, and we were just baffled at that point because there's obviously other things. I think we put oh gosh, I'll think of what it was. We put something else up. At the end of the day, what it turned out to be was a thermal time switch that's on the driver's side cam bank that is really supposed to only deal with the car when it's cold. But if that switch is stuck either closed or open, it's a kind of an on-off sort of thing. All these little things on CIS cars kind of, they just go through, and it's not, and people will try to tune around that. Like you'll end up with a car sometimes where somebody's tried to tune around a problem that there was with the car, and then you fix a problem, and now the rest of the car runs like shit because because they tuned around it. But long story short, client was coming on a Saturday. We figured out the thermal time switch like at 6 o'clock on Friday night. And so finally, the car got delivered to the client and all was well. Yes. But I stressed that was my week.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll go next. So number one, I got a very nice invoice from Dave for the interior of our Albert, which I appreciate, and I paid it right away, by the way.
You didn't
But
wait, you didn't get the full throttle talk discount?
I don't know if I
Well,
did or didn't.
he only
I
got part
did.
one of the invoice. He only got part
But I
one of the
will say
invoice.
this. I will say this. I am 100% trusting Dave and his team because you have yet to show me what you're doing. I haven't seen the design yet. Exactly.
It's going to
But
be great.
But the thing I'm most excited about is we got this. There was a rumor in our neighborhood that there was going to be a go-kart track, like a professional go-kart track being built. I don't know if any of you guys ever been on a go-kart, like a real go-kart, not like K1? Okay, like a
Oh,
real Paul,
yeah.
what were you in? Well, like, do you remember can class, pipe class, shifter cart? Do you
No, it
remember?
wasn't shifter car because I went with a friend. It was Adams over. It was a big track. It's I think now getting K1 actually bought, I think Adams, making they're gonna have a full pro kind of gas powered thing. It was whatever's down from a shifter cart. I didn't trust myself with a shifter cart,
Do you
and it was
remember if it
freaking
had do
fast.
you remember if it had elongated exhaust on it? Like a
It was
long,
it
you know?
was when I was not as fat and could fit in the damn thing.
Okay. Thank you for making the fat joke so I didn't have to. So
Yeah.
the yeah, so you're talking about basically what sounds like a pipe class cart. So anyway, long story short, these guys had hired somebody. Again, they did this without anyone knowing. These guys being the developer, they hired someone who's a professional go-kart or track designer who's actually designed tracks for Formula One tracks. This track has all the turns supposedly are designed after famous Formula One turns. They went and bought all these like it looked like 20 or 30 electric Italian carts, the whole thing. I mean, I'm extremely excited about it because I used to race go-karts. I did it for a year. And it was the most fun I ever had. And I stopped doing it because it was so consumptive of my, energies that I was losing focus on building our business. And this was 25 years ago, more than that now. So I had to stop it. It's really awesome that I can get back to it at 55. We'll see how it works out for me. All right. So Paul, your turn.
Yeah, and actually, I'm trying to download this picture because I think you would appreciate the last time I was in a go-kart. Hold on, because I did go to Newcomb's as you could see in the background, but I think you
When are they going
all,
to fix that sign, Paul?
Never.
it's
Uh,
almost kind of iconic now.
yep.
It is, I
So,
know.
um, there you go, Tim.
Oh, okay. There you go. Indeed. Well, that is a long time ago.
That's
That
a
is
head of hair
me.
right there.
How
That
he
is
finds
me.
these pictures. Wow.
Seriously, where the hell did that come from?
That is me at age 10. For my 10th birthday, what I wanted to do was go karting. And by the way, um, 10, that's 1979. There's not a lot of go-kart tracks around. There's not a lot of that stuff around. So it was a bit of a find. And as you can see by the go-kart, it's not exactly safe. It's just bars. You know, when you're at the starting grid, there's a guy who has to come out and pull the cord like a lawnmower because it is a lawnmower. I remember some of my friends crashing. Like, if you didn't leave this go-kart track with a band-aid or bandage of some kind, you didn't do it right.
All right, so I
Those were the
have to.
good old days, Paul.
I wasn't going to tell you guys the story, but I'm going to tell the very shortest version of this. On the last weekend I was racing, that you start out with 25, sometimes 30 cars, and I was in a class where half of it was like kids that didn't give a damn, and they would run you off the track. They were savages. Sarah Fisher, who you guys might remember from the IndyCar, she was an IndyCar driver, was in the class ahead of me. So some of these people were brilliantly talented people. So I finally get to the point where I'm starting seventh. I'm really proud of myself. The rolling starts. So I'm out racing. I'm out racing. Of course, I get passed by a bunch of these, ninja kids at the start, but still I'm having fun. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy flip. And when you flip a cart, it's a blump, 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 blump. And ideally, you fall out of it. You don't wear harnesses or anything. So this kid, and this was my last race, he was wearing a whole suit. I don't know how it happened, but and this is really what happened. And I'm going to say the words. And if this offends anybody, just, bear with me because this is just a body part. He ripped his scrotum open and his family jewels, his wedding vegetables, basically were, sitting there for him to, admire. So,
Oh,
but that's not, yes, exactly.
Oh,
That to me was a career ender. And like, I was like, oh, what the hell is this all about? All right, but this is where I knew I wasn't going to ever be a championship kart racer. He goes to the hospital, they stitch him up, and he goes back the same day and races.
wow. Was his name
that's
Nicky Lauda?
dedication.
I don't remember his name, but I remember Julie would go to the races with me. I had a Euro van. This is back when we had our detailing business, and we had this Euro van that had said Auto Spa on the side. So we put the cart in the back and the whole thing. I called her my track babe. In any event, she saw what I saw, and we sold all the shit within 30 days.
Oh, ugh. Yeah. So, in that segue,
Well,
um, I got to do something that is near and dear, and I've even got my clients almost trained. Friday morning from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., you're pretty much not reaching me. I'm out of cell phone range because I drive up to the mountains to Good Vibes Breakfast Club, which is a 200-mile round trip minimum. And of that is some traffic. If my clients let me take their car, it's a good way to do a test drive because I do traffic, I do open road, I do mountain road, I do altitude, I get everything. But the biggest thing for me is it's a way for me to drive my cars. And as you know, it's a way to disconnect. And we have Angeles Crest in our backyard, and it is one of the premier roads in the country. This time I convinced my lovely wife, Jennifer,
Whoa.
to actually take me up there. And I think what appealed to her is the day I got out of the hospital is the day the road fully opened from Wrightwood, which if you're local, um, it's been closed for 3 years. So coming from Orange County, I'll come up like you're going to Vegas, and if you come up the back way through Wrightwood, instead of 22 miles from La Cañada with a bunch of wahoos, it's a 42-mile drive with no one on the road. And it was funny. If you watch, I posted a reel of us driving, you'll see the deer. It's been 3 years since there's been animals, since there's been cars on this road. So like the animals are looking at us like we're lore. Like there's generations of deer that have not only heard about these mechanical things going by. And so where deer normally bolt out of the side of the road, they're just standing there looking and like, what are you doing here? Um,
Is this
so
because the fires? I'm confused. Did you say why?
no, no, just years of the road degrading and snowfall, and here's what's unique about that part of the road. It's right where two different districts of Caltrans maintain it. So the part that maintains the road that you see on good, Newcomb's Ranch and all the Friday drives, that's District 7, and in my opinion, they are a better district. They got their big roads are that road and 33, which is Ojai, which Haggerty rated the best road in the world last year. Now, when you get halfway on Angeles Crest, the other side is District 8, I think, which is Big Bear, Arrowhead, and all that. And the problem is Big Bear and Arrowhead take a huge priority because you've got ski slopes, you've got businesses, you've got residents. And so this has been slowly degrading on the underside of the road. And it was a 10-mile stretch. And if you get a chance to drive up through Wrightwood, it is glorious to do it. So Jennifer threw my ass in the passenger seat, my little scooter, walker, all that crap. And we drove up there. And a couple cool things happened really quick. Obviously, we can talk later about that. You know,
Well, we'll talk about that in the next segment, automotive
yeah.
news. Yeah.
But what happens at Good Vibes Breakfast Club, it's kind of become this thing that automotive manufacturers are doing sort of soft launches there, and they're doing press stuff there. And I've seen the T50 up there with Dario Franchitti driving it. I've seen a lot of the Tuttle cars up there. There's constantly disguised cars doing testing up there. So besides the Zinger, one of the cool things that happened was this couple up here. Let me see. So this is Christopher. Oh man, I hope I don't get his wife's name wrong. It was like Olsted. I apologize. So if you could see in the background, let me close this. So in the background is this 930, and then there's a 997 turbo, zero point 0.1 turbo manual. And what's really cool about that is they shipped both of those cars over from Europe for Lufka Colt at Universal Studios last year. They've left it all year. Last Tuesday, it finally had to go home. And they've been traveling, coming out every couple of months to do a car vacation with their car. But what's cool about this 930 is it was a US 930, an 88 Targa, really rare. And they bought it, sent it to Porsche Classic in Europe, and did a complete restoration, changed the color to Amazon green, did motor work, and I wish I would have saved a picture of the interior. Picture of the interior had
Is
almost,
yellow, right?
yeah, highlighter
Yeah,
yellow
I saw
inserts.
pictures of that. That's awesome.
You know
Yeah,
what?
just
But this is a good thing. I want to add this to our section because now we're going to talk about resto rods here in a second. If we ever start talking about what we did in the last week, because that's an interesting little turn on resto rods. If Porsche is doing, is it considered a resto rod? Let's that's a good
yeah.
segue.
But to me, the appealing thing was to be able to go on this automotive vacation. And I've thought about it. Send your car to Europe, find a place to store it, and then for a year come out and do different trips, like hubs of a spoke, going out and doing all kinds of different vacations. I want to get their name right. It was Christian and Ortrun, and they actually work for Porsche. So.
Oh, very cool.
But anyway, so I got to do that, and I went to a Cars and Coffee Saturday morning, and it was just glorious to feel like my normal life. And
A
then I
lot of
laid in
horsepower on that scooter there. I saw a video with you tooling around between
yeah,
the cars.
my friend, his name's Paul also. He decorated it like my green 911 Tortuga. So it's called Tortuga Ito, which is like little Tortuga. I mean, it's got all the rally stickers on it that I've gone on. It's got they have a little thing for speed, which has a turtle and a rabbit, and he put Tortuga speed and he gave it to me. He gifted it to me when I got out of the hospital. So, and I got to tell you that thing, life changer, so.
Great.
If I
What do
were
you?
to get
Oh,
a
And
speed
Tim,
line for Paul sticker, would you put it on there?
I would because I would think of you, Casey, which would warm my heart. But
I'm on
Tim,
it.
we had a problem with one of them, so he brought me another scooter. I'll have to take pictures, and it's the one I leave home and drive around the house because I don't want to be seen with it outside of the house.
here we
It's a
go.
Ferrari scooter. It's
Okay.
Ferrari.
All right.
It's Yeah, I'll show you that.
No. I've actually, if you haven't read the outline, I've got some, comebacks in preparation for you. You probably didn't read it, so don't
Nope.
worry. I'll get you back. I always pay my debts. All right. So let's go to automotive. Let's go to automotive news. And Casey, what automotive news caught your eye since and let's be somewhat succinct on most of these things because most of our folks are high car nerd like we are, so they'll probably know most of this. We don't want to bore them too much.
Real quick, Porsche is, of course, doing a lot more with electrification. The Cayman and Boxster are going to stop here, if I'm not mistaken. It's the end of this month. But one thing they announced the other day is an inductive charging platform that is going to be optional for the new EV Cayenne. I think it's pretty awesome. I think it's something that's been a while in the works, and they're just trying to figure out how to make it work. But basically, you pull up to it. The park distance, I'm assuming it requires air suspension and front cameras with park distance control as options to order it. You pull up, the car actually lowers to within a few centimeters of the top of the inductive pad, and it can charge up to 11 kilowatts per hour. I will read one interesting quote. It says, the charging process is automatically interrupted if a living creature gets between the vehicle and the floor plate or a metallic object lies on the ladder and heats up. So I was always wondering what it would be like because cats like things that are warm, and if cats get in your garage, this is not a good thing. But it's, of course, Porsche thinks of just about everything. I think that's pretty rad. I know that we, aren't too excited about electric cars here, but unfortunately, I think a lot of it is inevitable. And seeing continued innovation like this, I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Paul, you're next.
And I'll be really quick. Turbo S news, it's been all over. It's one of those things that I think they've trying to typical like if I was Jeremy Clarkson, he'd say, "Oh my God, they changed one little part of the headlight and they call it a new car. It's only a little bit more horsepower. It was 14 seconds faster on the Nürburgring than the old one." I think the big key is it's example of them trying to figure out how to meet future cafe standards, smog laws, emission laws, and just squeezing the life out of this flat six engine, which, you know, we will never see a normally aspirated engine. Well, we have the GT program, but after I don't know how those are going to have normally aspirated engines. They're going to have a hybrid. But so you could read lots about that on the news. My favorite part of the news, which I mentioned yesterday, was this dude in Czechoslovakia
Our
driving
hero.
his Marlboro liveried. And actually, if you check it out, it's kind of funny. He kind of cut off the Marlboro a little bit. Like he's not worried about getting caught by the police, but he's worried about
Trademark.
getting sued
Trademark
by
infringement.
Marlboro, which
Paul,
I
Paul,
thought.
explain what you're showing to
The
people that
listeners,
are
yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy in Czechoslovakia, he took a open wheel race car that looks like he liveried up to look like a Formula One car. It is.
It was
Hold
a
on.
Formula 2 car, if I remember. Casey, do you remember if it was? I'm pretty
The
sure it
next
was.
class down, whatever the
Yeah,
next
it was
class
it
down
was two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and basically for the last 6 years, he has been zooming all over Czech Republic, trying to, I guess, taunt police, um, and lots of pictures.
It's awesome.
The police
That's
have been going
awesome.
crazy trying to catch this guy. They finally caught him. He comes in still fully dressed like Michael Schumacher with a helmet, everything else, and I think his name was Lucas, and um, he denied that he ever went over 200 kilometers an hour, which is only 124 miles an hour. He did say that he was trying to show that there weren't enough police to do actual police activity. They were too busy doing traffic stuff, which he thought was a waste of police dollars. I could kind of respect that. So anyway, that kind of war. No one was hurt. And it
This
kind of
went on for a
spawned
while, didn't it? Like this went
6
on for
years.
several
6
months.
years,
They
6
couldn't,
years.
yeah, they couldn't
And
catch him.
and so my first thought is like, and I mentioned like we got to do a segment. If we could have what car and what country would we want to do something like this, and how would we, do it? Dressing like someone, doing like the Stig kind of identity. What car would it be? And just something ridiculous,
Oh,
like an
I
airplane
know.
car.
I can transition this into our next segment. We'll get there in a minute.
All right,
So
perfect, Casey.
anyway, that's automotive news. There you go.
Dave,
Good
the
overview.
biggest automotive news, I'm going to go last so that Paul can't make fun of me with my biggest automotive news. But Dave, what's your automotive news?
Fair enough. I just thought this was interesting, obviously for Porsche, and we've been talking about this for several episodes. But this whole Macan issue, their number one selling cars, and the fact that they transitioned the whole thing to EV, and as a result, they're kind of caught flat-footed right now. So they're trying to cut corners on the development of the next gen version of this car, which is going to be slightly smaller. I think it's code name model or M1, I think, is the internal designation for it at the moment. Well, what they're basically doing is stealing the Audi PPC, the premium platform combustion motor that they're going to put in this, but it's going to have a front wheel bias on an all-wheel drive car, which is the first time that Porsche's ever done anything like this. And I think they wouldn't have done it if they, that's my opinion at least, if they didn't have to rush this car into production. So I just thought that was interesting, and the fact that they're basically trying to, get a car back quickly into retail. This is still 2028 before this car comes out. But that seems sort of sacrilegious to Porsche peeps. But I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Or
Well,
Casey?
pardon my quick interruption. When they developed the
No.
Macan initially, only because I was with Porsche when this happened, one of the first things that they did was, of course, the Macan was based on the Audi Q5 platform. So they basically put a Q5 and they put staggered tire setup on the car and put wider tires on the rear of the car, and it lapped the Nürburgring multiple seconds faster. So from that point, and this was really the first car that Porsche really did in conjunction with Audi, they re-engineered a Q5 to be a Macan. One of the most interesting things is they moved the steering wheel in a Q5 is offset to the right. In a Macan, they spent a tremendous amount of money to move it directly in front of the driver because that's important. So while news outlets are reporting this, I can guarantee you it's still going to feel like a Porsche when it comes out. But Porsche isn't even able to sell, if I'm not mistaken, internal combustion engine Cayman, Boxster, and Macan in a lot of Europe because of a lot of the things that have expired in that. So yes, they are caught flat-footed for sure, but I mean everybody's scrambling at this point.
Let's talk about this because you guys are all kind of saying the same thing. We've talked about it in the two previous shows too. It's not in our agenda, but do you guys think that, first of all, the regulations in Europe that are sort of trying to force consumers to buy cars that they truly don't want, the manufacturers seem to be rebelling against the bureaucrats, especially in Europe. You can already see it happening in the United States. The government essentially has reversed all the EV mandates. I think they reversed even the one in your state. The Trump administration basically said California can't have their own. They're trying to right? What was the deal with that?
Hey, this came out like a couple days ago, and it really pissed my dad off, and is changing what his buying is. The HOV lane, carpool
Yeah.
lane. It was scheduled in 2 years look at, because right now, if you've got an EV or certain plug-in hybrids, you get a sticker and you could drive on the HOV lane with one person. And then the federal government said, no, we want that to end now. We sort of voted and extended it to 27. But literally 2 days ago to us dealers, they sent out a thing, end of this month, September 30th. All those stickers are void. If you are the only reason you are in an HOV lane is because you have two or more people in your car, no electric cars with one person, no plug-in hybrids, which is huge because like my dad who was going to buy a plug-in hybrid and he was hoping for like a Macan plug-in hybrid just so he could use that to come to the shop twice a week. He's not going to buy a plug-in hybrid or electric now because that was his only motivation.
So I'm fairly certain the federal government doesn't have any control over California roads except for the massive interstates. And I'm fairly certain what you're describing actually was a California thing, wasn't a federal government thing.
No, it did say in the statement it was federal government because I think what happened was the federal government was teasing them with pulling federal road funding in general if they didn't imply this. And I was shocked. I mean, it was just sort of like I get these bulletins as a dealer and it says, okay, I'm just looking for new laws that affect what I do. And I sent it to my dad and then I looked it up again and I was like, what the heck is this? And there was no voting. I am surprised more people aren't talking about it in the news because I think it's going to be huge.
Well,
All the EVs in California, of course it will be, right? So those people now got to get out of the quick lane.
Right. The point I'm trying to make is essentially the path that we are on with everything becoming EV. I don't really see how that path is going to continue globally because even Porsche, which has got what got me on this thought, they're suffering really because people don't want to buy electric products. They just don't. And you can't force it by limiting availability and saying you have fewer things to choose from. What happens is that the consumers just pop to another brand and then the brand even suffers even more. So I don't know. Hopefully, we're having a return to sanity. The future, I don't know what it is, but for now, it's definitely going to be hybrid. Speaking of which, you guys ready? The biggest news ever. The
Here it
biggest
comes.
news ever to come to ever. Oh, hush, Casey. The biggest news ever to be announced on this podcast. No, that's not true, but it's close. The new Porsche SF90 or Ferrari. I said Porsche.
Oh, we
Freudian
got
slip.
him. We got him.
Freudian slip.
I
You guys
blame Dave.
Finally.
Dave did it.
you brainwashed me. The new Ferrari SF90 replacement. Thank you, Dave. The new Ferrari
Got it.
SF90 replacement. Now, I think it's fun. It is funny. I intentionally, when I saw the pictures, one of my friends was over in Milan at the actual official release to the world of this car. Ferrari does it right when it comes to announcing new cars. But there was a massive press embargo on this car. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, you probably didn't even go to bother to look on YouTube, but all the videos about the car, they were all Italian journalists. So Ferrari basically has lifted the embargo on the Italian and European journos reports, and then I assume the embargo is still in place on the American and British one. So I thought that was kind of cool. But in any event, so that car is an upgrade for the SF90. And I have to say, so far from then I hopped over to Ferrari chat to see what the folks on Ferrari chat thought, because those guys do not hold their tongues with their opinions. And I would say of 100 posts that I scanned through, there are probably two people that like the looks of the car. But the moral of the story
I'm
is
not
that,
one.
huh?
I said I'm not one. It's an odd shaped car to me. It's very
Well,
peculiar. Plus, it's Testarossa, right? They're rebringing the Testarossa name back on this car, right?
Yeah,
they
I
are.
think they're using the wrong nomenclature for the car. They touted that they wanted it to look like a 70s race car. To
Yep,
me, it looks a lot like that SP3 thing that they
it
brought
does.
out, but it's not as good looking. But I agree with Dave. I mean, Ferrari, the whoop-de-doo one, was it the F80? That one is growing on me a little bit because I do believe it looks like a Group C car. But I agree with Dave. I mean, the SF90 was never for me. Talk about a car that is worth not a lot now. And I think that this might follow suit eventually. What do you think, Tim?
I agree with pretty much everything you said, and you're right. The SF90s, they haven't halved in value, but it's pretty severe. And whether or not, so this goes back to the whole question about the whole hybridization. People don't know whether or not the futures with hybrids or not. But the reality of it is that how is an electric motor that's giving more power to the car that much different than, say, for example, turbos on a V8, right?
Uh,
It's essentially just adding more power and giving it more. The problem is the complexity. What happens to these cars when they get miles on them? Try to find somebody that knows how to fix one of these things in 10 years or 15 years. It's going to be almost impossible. So that's what kind of makes me nervous about it. But as far as what I honestly think about the car, I think it's beautiful. So as far as Testarossas go, there was the Testarossa from the 80s, but there were if you guys go all the way back to the 50s, there were other Testarossas as well. And you're right, Casey, they did borrow some of the SP3 ass end on that car. But here's what's interesting to me, I think, just from a marketing perspective, is that the F80, which is a six-cylinder, twin turbocharged, a derivative of the motor in R296, that car now is selling for 5 to 6 million in private sales. The start price on this car for the Berlinetta, the GTB, is 549, and it does look very similar to the F80. So I just think that's kind of interesting. So Brett,
and it looks very similar to Zorro. That's all I see when I see that
The
car.
mask, the
The,
front
the
end
that's
mask
Zorro.
there.
that's pretty good. I
But
got,
here's ultimately my issue is when companies and Lamborghini did this when they relaunched the Countach and they kind of blew it. Um, I just feel like marketing, Testarossa is such an important name. And if you think about it, it wasn't like they sold out on it. It was the pontoon Testarossa. Then you went decades until you got to the 80s and they built truly a supercar. And I see this thing being like, I feel like they just go, what legacy badge can we give it to make it they're trying to differentiate the car through a marketing name
For
versus
sure,
actually
Porsche doesn't do that with the 911s. For sure,
never,
they don't.
Well,
never,
it's the
Ever.
never.
Mustang
Come
Mach-E
on.
thing.
No, all of it's crap. But when I saw this thing, the first thing I thought was, how cool would it have been to put the mirrors up high?
Oh,
Like
or yeah,
or
like
some
a
strakes, or
or
just
do
some
something like the mono style where they had the one up high
one.
and then maybe
Yeah,
do
but they
something with the camera on the other side so
That
it
would have been
doesn't look like
Yeah,
awesome.
it. That
that
would
would
have
have
been
been
great.
awesome. Imagine if they did just, they've already got these vents down the side and they did some subtle modern version of strakes. I mean, the side strakes, which are so Testarossa,
Yeah, exactly.
or
But
They
or
did
that's
nothing
not
even,
that
that
tied the
that
car together. They did nothing that tied into the
I
heritage
mean,
of
this
that car from the 80s, which was a
this looks
big
more
miss for
like,
my opinion.
yeah, it looks more like it could be a Roma, it could be the car, whatever the one we just talked about that came out like months earlier. I mean, so we talked about Porsche doing the Ferrari game with their special editions and stuff like that. Is Ferrari doing the Porsche game where they're just going to keep slicing the pie thinner and they'll have four fundamentally look like the same car and they'll be
on the
like, this is a
very,
little
very
different.
high end, Paul. That's what they're doing on the very, very high end. They're coming out with it's called the Iconoclast. So on the very high end, they're coming out with all these limited run. Casey mentioned one of the ones, the SP3s, and there's others.
That's a
But
pretty car.
hell yeah, it is. It's great, so but it is kind of fascinating to watch people's reaction to new designs. And I often wonder to myself, like, what car can you guys think of? I can think of one car as I think of this question. What car came out where everyone universally didn't like it, and maybe it was two step forward from the previous generation car, that over time people began to really fall in love with it and said, damn, I didn't see that in its era, but now I really appreciate it. Can you guys think of one?
996.
I think honestly, I don't think that one's made rounded the bend yet. I
It's
think people buy
coming. It's coming.
it is, but people buy it for the value. And frankly, if you drive a GT3 version, it's pretty awesome. Casey, can you think of one that in its era, people just thought, but then over time, it sort of found its audience?
Nothing is really hitting my
Oh,
mind right now.
964. It was
Oh
hated.
yeah, so yeah, that's a good point, Paul. The and yeah, I mean, I didn't really. I mean, I was golly 7 when the 964 came out, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry to both of you. All three of you. I apologize, but you are correct. I mean that car took a long time to get legs. I mean, I remember I bought a
What
Targa 964 in 18 for or 17 for 12 grand. Nobody wanted it back then.
Tim wants us to go to one car he's thinking, and I'm trying
No,
to.
no, I've got it. I've already
Okay,
got mine.
well,
I
give us a
had
hint.
one.
I was
What's the
going
No, I
brand?
want to
Pontiac
be
Aztec, actually.
oh,
Pontiac
Oh
Aztec. I think
yeah.
that one's really been
really?
embraced.
People are really okay. All right, comic relief from Dave. I'll
Of
say
course.
the BMW, the Z3 BMW M Coupe.
Yes. Well, I mean, no, I don't think so because I mean, that was the car, one of the few cars I lusted after. I had wallpapers, I had pictures everywhere, vision board, and I'm not a vision board person. I wanted that car so badly, and I did get it. But I mean, I remember
You're talking
telling,
clown shoe, right? Like
yeah,
a
the
like
Clown
clown
shoe.
shoe.
yeah, clown shoe. Okay.
I don't think it was universally hated. I think there was a solid cult following from the very beginning. Um, I think here's one, on BMW, what is it, 2004 M5, the
Yeah, the
E60,
the Bangle
the
cars.
Bangle
I do
cars,
believe that those were pretty
hated.
people didn't like them. They were Chris Harris talked about it how when the car, I think it was that generation of car when it came out, they brought out in England a bad version of it and then they put the sport package on it and everybody fell in love with the car because of the way that it looked. But yeah, I think I would agree with you. Chris Bangle, a lot of his designs now are much more applauded.
Yep.
Which I don't understand. Why the hell is that true? Because when they came out with that new 7 Series, oh my gosh, the car's still the ugliest thing ever. And it's the
Yeah,
Because
that's not a good example
the
of
reason why
his
is
work.
BMW figured out how to make even uglier cars. so that those look pretty good.
Those have
Oh,
gotten
That was
better.
their strategy. Chris Bangle is on there paying off designers. Like, come on, man, give me a
and
legacy.
and that's the
Make something
tagline for
shitty.
today's episode.
Exactly. How do you sell something by making it uglier? Yeah, that is funny. But seriously, the designs of the front end of those cars, all the things, like what are you folks doing? You need to hop in a little time machine, go back to the 90s and just copy what you were doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So let's move on to the segment three. If you guys are ready, this one I think
Yeah.
will be a lot of fun. All right. So this is a segment or a conversation that we like to bring up because it is very fascinating. Because in all our lives, with the exception of the in the 80s, when Casey was still in diapers or not even born, one of
Might
those
still
two.
be in diapers,
Zygote.
Okay.
depending on how long this podcast goes today.
Exactly. You got to put them on ahead of time, bro. You got to plan. There has never been this many, well, I'll say since the 1930s too. There's never been this many coach built, Resto-Mod, Bespoke, hot rod, wherever the heck you want to call them. And so I'm seeing all these cars, and if you guys watched any of the media that was coming out of, especially the Quail after Car Week, there are so many more of these companies, and God bless all of them. I think it's fantastic. Truthfully, I do. I think it's amazing. But it doesn't matter. It could be your classic Alpha. It could be, and we were joking that there's going to be somebody resto modding a 1980s and 90s Yugo. Watch, it'll happen. But what's the deal with that? Is the new, and I'm wondering if there's going to be almost a rejection or is the market going to turn against all these high-end resto rods and then start looking for cars that are going to be, factory hot rods, factory cars that are now flat. And I put you guys, just to tee up the conversation, I gave you guys some comps. So you guys always use classic.com. So if you look at the values of 964 RSs, if you look at the value of one of my favorite cars ever, 993 GT2 or just 993 GT2 or GT No 2, if you look at the values of those, they've been flat for a long time. All the while, these resto rod companies have increased their price, increased their price, increased their price. In my little pea brain, that doesn't make any sense. Discuss. Dave, you go first.
Well, I mean, I would agree. I think that there's basically a handful. I think Paul's obviously got one up of these companies that are going to probably stay around and be relevant into the future. You've got your Czinger, you certainly got Roots, and maybe Tut Hill or somebody else like that. But there's a bunch of these cars that are getting done from lesser builders. I mean, I would even, again, I think we always look at this and say, because we see so many things that have been cut up over the years that somebody 25 years ago thought was, oh, this is really cool, let's do this. And now we're left trying to unwind it 25 years later because too many people cut them up. I mean, it's like I feel about RWBs. Forget about it. I mean, those are cars that you're taking a perfectly good 993 and just cutting the crap out of it in such a terrible way. I don't get the appeal of that at all because I've seen these cars up close and you start looking at taking bits and parts off and they're terrible.
Forgive me for interrupting. Forgive me for interrupting, but I have to say, I have a dream about an RWB. I have a dream about one day being in the position to buy one. The biggest flares, the biggest wheels, the gnarliest paint. I want the camber and caster to be all screwed up. I want to get that car, and my dream is to then return it back to original.
That'll cost you a hell of a lot of money, my friend. Let me tell you that, because
That's
the
my
way they cut
fantasy.
it apart.
I have a buddy in North Carolina that can probably do that work for you.
Exactly.
I mean, so Tim, you mentioned that we haven't seen this, and I think actually when you look at the financial markets, you saw this in the 20s, the roaring 20s. All kinds of crazy cars were coming out of the 20s. Duesenberg was building some outlandish stuff that people go, "Ooh, Duesenberg's an important car today." By the 30s, it was almost gone, and by the 40s, it was gone. You have, and then you go to the 50s, post-war success. You have Tuckers and all these other men. It's doing it all over again, and then all of a sudden, the consolidation to the big three. And by the way, you go to the 80s and you have builders like Straumann.
That's dope.
All kinds
That's dope.
of stuff.
Outrun, man. That's
Yeah,
it.
you have Strosik and Koenig building, that's a roof. Oh yeah, Strosik,
Oh
yummy.
God. Oh,
I saw one of those at Rensport. I thought it was great. People were taking pictures. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
no, I know that car.
You
the
guys are
freak
kind
show
of,
at that point. It's the
but
freak show.
but hold on a
Yes.
second. But hold on. Sorry for interrupting you, Paul.
Yeah.
But Casey's not he's being a little bit sarcastic. But what
Yeah.
these guys are actually, what Casey's actually saying is actually how people's brains are thinking because they like this stuff. They like the custom one-off stuff, and I'm
They,
just wondering how long that trend's going to last.
I think they like this as ironic cool because it was drug dealer 80s. It was just over the top, and then we looked at it horrible. Now, even going to the slant nose, we're going, Porsche got in the slant nose game because DP, it was developed for racing with Kramer Racing and DP. Then all of a sudden, aftermarket tuners are doing it, and Porsche is sort of doing it special wishes. And finally, in '87, they said, fine, we're going to price this thing so ridiculous, 20 grand for a body kit by Porsche, poorly installed. But this was interesting. This is an Alan Johnson Racing 930 kit. So Porsche realized very quickly they absolutely hated doing these kits. Alan Johnson, who was a Porsche dealer in San Diego, says, "You know what? I'll do those kits because you guys at Porsche do a pretty crappy job putting it on. I can do it better." In fact, when we get clients who order 930 slant noses, we're fixing half the shit. And by the way, we can't get a 930S, which by the way, people think a 930 slant nose is a 930S. It is not. S is the power kit that's the 330 horsepower. So you could go into Alan Johnson Racing in San Diego. He would order a factory kit. He would install it way better, and then he would bump the power so you could kind of get a 49 state legal 930S slant nose. Very cool. Way more expensive than what you could buy at the factory. And guess what? Today, half of a slant nose price. Apples to apples.
Okay,
So
so
I
you're
think
making you're making the point that even very well done resto rods and Aero don't age well over time. It was actually I learned from you, Paul. Roof actually doesn't. He built a one slant nose, but he said he didn't like the design of it. Dave, if you could just move slightly to the right, you're right. No, yeah, and he specifically said he didn't like how the front hood flowed into the windshield. He thought it was too much of an angle. I'd never seen it before, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. He's so right.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry,
Right.
Dave.
And
Thank you.
which
No,
by
no
the way,
worries.
the slant nose is very short-lived. And by the 90s, they just represent this era of decadence, drug dealer, cocaine, you name it. And then the irony is the 993 that's so beloved when you look at his side elevation, it looks like a freaking slant nose. But for whatever reason, Tony Hatter pulled off the design with it. But my point being is this we're going through the same cycle. This resto mod, I would say, is the most obviously sophisticated because we have access to all kinds of technology
And money.
and money exactly. And there's you look at Gunther Works. That is, I every time I go there and it's right down the street from me, I am astounded at what kind of facility it is. The runway of money that they've built to make sure that thing can build 30 cars a year or less or whatever is astounding. Because I remember Czinger when they first started, they didn't look much different than TLG or you name your any old school shop. So I would say
How does Gunther Works hold up? How do you think that holds up 10 years from now?
I don't.
'Cause
I
these are
think
still
10
million
years.
dollar cars,
I
right?
think
You
10
can't
years.
buy one for,
But this is the whole conversation. In the long run, how does it hold up?
yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, number one, it has to be an incredibly well built car. That's what's given roof legs. But you also got to remember Yellowbirds and BTRs, especially BTRs and even the 996 variant roof cars, up until like 5 minutes ago, they weren't worth that much more. I think we're experiencing the whole resto mod thing coming along where Porsche's now building them. You've got premier builders like Tuttle, and you've got now Roof is getting recognition for stuff that they've been doing this whole entire time. But the end of the day, here was a really well built, almost factory kind of thing by a factory race team with a Porsche dealership license. And now 40 years later, it doesn't hold up anymore. It's worth half.
Paul,
So
you brought up that other company. You saw that company's supercar, hypercar, wherever the hell it is. If you could throw that picture back up again, I'm trying to remember the name of those guys.
The
Ramen?
Zinger one?
Yeah, the Zinger. Thank
The
you. Thank
Zinger,
you,
yeah.
Casey.
Oh, the Zinger.
All
Okay,
right, so
yeah.
I watched in preparation for today's show. Yes, I do my homework. I watched a long interview with this guy and unbelievably smart, unbelievably all the things, right? And one of the things that he said, which I thought was very interesting, is he said they're moving towards a moment in time where you can show up at their facility in LA and you can sit down with their designers and you can actually, your point, Paul, about 20s and 30s cars, you can design your own one of one supercar. It's not a variation of a 911 like all these other things are. And so if they're able to do that with 3D printing, which evidently they are, that is, in my mind, where this super selective bespoke market's going to go. And I think these guys that are doing resto rods on, existing cars, I think they're going to lose their buyers. And it's a very tiny niche, but very well-heeled niche to the Zingers of the world, because Zinger is going to probably start creating the technology and selling it and licensing it to other, one-off manufacturers. And, we could talk about AI and we could talk about all these other things, but it's just fascinating to be alive right now and be a car enthusiast and see all these changes happening so quick. It's exciting. It just truly is.
Yeah, I mean, you got power sources changing, you got energy sources changing, you've got
Yep.
design technology changing. And I think I look at someone like Zinger, and really the 3D printing part is really cool. Most people, they go, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and then they kind of are blasé about it. They don't realize, like what you mentioned, Tim, which is the future applications. Right now, their kind of unique selling proposition is they've got this sort of tandem seating weird thing. And I love Matt Farah's quotes. He says, "This is not a great car. However, it's a fairly superb fighter plane, and people need those too." I mean, that's kind of, it's sort of this sort of comedy thing. But in the end, if Singer can get out of the way of the hubris, which is tough when you named a company after yourself, if you can get out of the way of it, I can see someone like a Pagani going, "We want to buy your
But
technology
that's what's
because our
happening.
buyers."
But
Yeah.
that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. And I don't know that very good. And so they're designing now major components for Bugatti and for, I forget who the other manufacturers are. Have you guys seen one of their control arms? Casey,
Oh, the
have you
Zinger,
seen
the
it?
Zinger control arm.
Have you guys seen it just as a
Oh, it's
for
crazy.
example?
So I watched, I think it was Top Gear UK that I think I sent to you, but it was Jethro Bovington did a real deep dive into the car and drove it, and I did. It's I mean, I think it's tremendous what they're doing. The design of the parts, I mean, it's all basically designed so that the littlest amount possible of metallic material or whatever they're using is used in order to save weight. And I really believe that that is the future of manufacturing. And I
Yeah.
do believe that they are a tech company. And like how I hate to say Rivian's not a car company, but if you look at the stock that I own, it doesn't look like that. But Rivian sold a ton of technology to Volkswagen Group. And that's really, I believe, what is keeping them being a company because they do it very, very well. And I think Rivians are great cars. If I had like if they bring out that small Rivian thing, whatever it is that kind of
Oh,
looks like a Lada, I would buy that car. I would lease
yeah.
it. Sorry, I would lease it. I would
The
not buy it.
RS3 or
Can you
whatever it
guys,
is, it
but
looks
can you get, let's
badass.
let's fast forward into the future, right? And because of AI, we're all younger looking. You guys have your hair back. I mean, all the things, right? AI's caused all the reversal of age. Okay, so it's in the future now. And you want to go buy a new Porsche. Can you envision going to the Porsche dealership and literally sitting down with them and designing your own car?
I'm not going to the dealership. I'm going to be on my laptop
You get it
or
from a
whatever
vending machine.
hologram doing my configurator, which it also says how many would you like a four-seater? Would you like them,
Exactly.
side by side? Do
But you guys,
you
can you
want
guys
to?
see that as being a thing? Do you think that'll happen? Do you think it could happen?
Sure.
But
If the
certainly
money made
could.
sense. So what's the
Is
major
that good? Is that good or bad for the industry though? Because I look at
good?
this and the concept that you're describing though eats at the fundamentals of kind of building this brand. And when you said it as Porsche, it made me recoil a little bit only because how do you then create a bespoke car? If your car is bespoke every single time, then what are the themes that are tying it all together? And then what will the then future generations be lusting after? What version of this Zinger is somebody going to be thinking this is the greatest car ever when
They
everyone's
won't.
unique?
They'll do their own. I mean,
Well, no, I think 911 like Porsche and BMW, there'll be things you can configure, wheels or whatever. I think they'll limit it. Like, okay, it's gonna got to still have a 911 headlights. It's got to have the things that aesthetically identify it and brand it. Going to Dave's point, if it's just everything, then what are you buying from Porsche? The engine, the build quality, but I think people
You're just
also
losing
are
some of
are
the
brand conscious.
yeah, you're,
Well,
you're losing
but
some of
that's
the
what
DNA that ties it together.
the guy that was running Ferrari that passed away. People called him the sweater. I don't remember his name. Sorry for not remembering his name. In any event, he's the one that came out and said Ferrari is a brand, a fashion brand. And everyone was like, what the hell does that mean? Well, fast forward, we can see what it means. So when every car is fast, when every car looks beautiful, when every car is limited edition, when they're only making 500 of every car's got all these widgets and the gadgets and the technology and all the rest of it, what ultimately is going to draw somebody, why does a woman pay $30,000 for an Amaze purse that a normal purse does the same thing? It's because they want to have the attachment to what the brand is telling them that how they'll feel about themselves and how other people will see them. That's what we're experiencing. And I don't think, honestly, Dave, to your question, I don't think the older, or I'll say the more seasoned, I don't know what word I'm supposed to be using here, a car enthusiast gives a shit about that. I don't think they care about that. They're like Paul. Most of Paul's enthusiasm for his Porsches is because of his community. Casey, you're the same way, You guys love the community. And I respect that. But I don't think the next generation of buyers, I don't think they're tied in like that, truthfully. I really don't. I think they're tied into it's the Instagram effect, really. I mean,
So I know
Whatever
that
the
we've
current
not talked.
hotness is.
let Casey go. Sorry, Casey.
I know
Sorry.
we've not talked much about. I mean, the topic at hand is Resto-Mods, right? And Paul got us right. So Czinger doesn't fit in there. But the thing that I need to point out, first of all, you were talking about my bad taste. My generation loves my generation. I was born in the early 80s. The tuner world was cool, and that makes Strosek interesting to me. I would never own one, but when I saw it, if I saw a Strosek next to a 959, I glance at the 959 and then I go look at the Strosek because it's weird. But Paul, if you could put the convertible Testarossa up,
Would you
please.
would
He
you
needs a
like that
Stradman. Yeah.
version,
Yeah.
or
So,
would you like
no,
the
top down, please.
look how
Please don't.
sick.
No, 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 no. Go back to the white
Oh,
one. Okay, go
but that
back to
is
the white one.
sexy with the
That
top up.
it is not. It looks like a Barchetta 550, but worse. So if you look at this, so basically for me, and I loved the video game Outrun. Okay. It's an 80s video game. I'm sure everybody that is on this podcast is familiar with the game Outrun, but they drove a convertible Testarossa. And I believe that game did more marketing for Ferrari than Ferrari did for the whole Testarossa. And Ferrari didn't even build the car. And that to me is more interesting. And I think what a lot of these cars like Czinger are is it's lacking romance. It's lacking emotion. Like a machine printing something is cool, but then we go back to what last week we talked about that Petrolicious video on Rod Emery's son-in-law, where he took a piece of metal, I guess it was probably steel, and was rolling it at an English wheel. And it was showing me how someone cared so much about producing a panel of a vehicle that was going to go on a car. That's what gets me going. And when I look at the history of resto mods, and there are companies like Tuthill that were involved with the SCRS rally program in the early 80s with Porsche, which is mind-blowing to me. They actually made the car better. And then you look at companies like Roof, I was listening to the Carmudgeon podcast, and they were talking about riding in these new roofs along with Alois and just talking about the passion that this gentleman has for his cars. That to me is a selling point. And I do believe Gunther, I look after a Gunther Speedster. The build quality is really great and it's got a great engine. I have some experience with Czinger cars. They're cool, but I like something with a little bit more history. And when I see a car like Tuthill, and I read an article in Triple Zero magazine that talks about how they actually made SCRS's better cars, which I believe is one of the coolest Porsches ever built. When you see that progress and with Roof and what they're becoming now, that to me is what would cause me to want to buy one of those cars.
Casey,
These other things don't interest me.
forgive me for interrupting you. And I agree with everything you're saying. You clearly have an old soul for somebody in his early 40s. But I'm going to say, I'll suggest this, and the jury's still out. But from my past experience in this last year at Car Week, I would suggest, and I don't like saying this, but I don't think the next generation, which are younger than you, care about the history. at all.
Not, no, no, not at all. And I agree. And that's who in 20 years is going to lust after buying a Zinger.
But don't you
Could
think
be.
the boomers, the guys who are older than us, Tim, might have been saying that about us too? It's just I think their starting point of history is different. So you take a millennial who's born in the 90s, really their influence is mid 2000s where they say you're a car person, like 14 is the defining age of a car person because you're reading the mags, you can't drive, so everything's dangling fruit. So that would put them at like mid 2000s. So we're just saying they have no they won't identify to history. I'm saying their history starts at the 997 if you're talking Porsche, Ferrari F430. And that is their historical point. And don't forget, Roof to them is possibly a millennial company, possibly stodgy and old, whereas Gunther Works and or Singer, especially being really started this in the mid 2000s, Singer might be the legacy company. They might be the OG Resto-Mod. Emery Outlaw might be that might be the historical anchor for them. We can't imagine it because we come from an era where the Resto-Mods, when we see Resto-Mods in the 80s, we think of this bullshit. But I'd full on drive that. I wouldn't drive that, but I would drive this. I wouldn't drive that. And if I did, I'd never put the top up. So so I just think it's hard for us to put ourselves in the perspective of what someone in their 20s is going to call historical. Tuttle is really cool, but I don't think Tuttle's been around for a long time. We love it because the ethos, because he is definitely anchored in the 70s. But the problem is Tuttle didn't really come on the scene for America until maybe 10 years ago. So I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for Europe and England what they think of it. Maybe to them that's their Singer. Who knows?
So which one holds more value over time? So let's look at Singer, who's taking a 911 and backdating it. So they're going backwards with the appearance, making a newer car effectively look like an older car. Okay.
Well,
Pulling
yeah.
on the heritage of Porsche versus a Gunther Works car, which in my opinion is taking the older car and making it look newer. And as a result, which one is there a preference there? Because to me, every time I see a forward dated 74 that's made to look like a 964, I'm throwing up in my mouth.
Right.
I hate it.
Paul,
But when
give
I
me
do
two
see,
seconds.
go ahead.
No, 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 no. So I was curious about that myself, and I'll tell you what I was really surprised to learn. Gunter Works is definitely hotter with the younger generation, no doubt, because the reason you're saying they don't have any attachment to the old long hood, whatever, whatever. They're loving that new Gunther Works thing. There was a Formula One driver that flew in for Car Week that was driving one of those things. So this is it's okay not to understand where the market is going, but I will say this, the one thing that does scare me for that is that if there's not enough people to restore and take after like what you do, Dave, or all the who's going to want to learn how to take care of an old 911 as the generation ages out, if the demand for those cars shrinks. I just don't know. But it's going to be fascinating to watch. Somebody will, you will. You
Yeah.
guys
I
ready to
mean,
bounce?
that's why so many of these old air-cooled cars are going to EFI. I mean, that's the big push for EFI is there's fewer people that know how to do MFI or care. Even carburetors, which were ubiquitous. They got rid of the MFI and put carburetors on because everyone spoke carburetors. Fewer people speak carburetors. And now EFI, there's a lot more people who speak EFI. And I'm sitting here, I have a car that we need to have some EFI tuning to. And as an old school guy, I've got tons of guys that could tune for carburetors, MFI. I am now trying to get hold of the one guy I trust, or at least know to do EFI tuning. So,
What's in
um,
that? Motec,
I don't know.
MSD,
Uh,
or
no, it starts with the H. Can't think of the name.
uh,
You just need
Haltech.
to add that one to your permanent
Haltech,
collection.
Haltech,
Altec?
You need
Haltech.
to add that one to your permanent collection, Paul, clearly.
You know
That
what? And I'll tell you right now, the owner wants something else. He is selling it for such a screaming deal. And if I wasn't in the current health situation, I would buy it because the problem with this car is someone what they say, like someone thought that they were a designer and they did things because they liked it, thinking, well, it's my car, I'll do it the way they want, but it hurt the value. And I would do some cosmetic changes to this thing, put about 15, 20 grand, have a hoot with it over the next year, and then I would sell it on Bring a Trailer, and I think it would kill. It just doesn't, just wearing the wrong party dress. That's
So
all.
go to
What's the number on what's go ahead. What's the number on that car
there you
what
go.
would be the number that you got?
It's listed at 150. It was over 300 to build. Um, the price is better than that, and I can't say it, but you can call me.
Go to Auto Talk.
I talked to the owner this morning on Facebook. Good dude.
Oh, the owner of this car?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's
He's
great. And it just kills me.
He's going to have Casey consign it on Bring a Trailer. The owner hasn't told you yet, Paul.
Paul,
No,
you
I'm gonna
should
buy
you
it,
should
I'll
reach
fix
out.
it up, and then Casey will do it for me.
You should watch the StanceWorks YouTube channel because Mike Burrows only uses Haltech on his projects, and I guarantee that he has a guy that could tune that car.
Yeah, I have one guy who comes up to Good Vibes who's the one who's worked on it in the past. So I'm trying to reach out to him if I can't. Mike was the other one,
Yep.
which, but going back to the question about the resto mods, it kills me to say that a Gunther works in, let's say, well, let's see, these millennials, let's say the 20 somethings when they're in their late 40s. So let's just say 25 years from now. And you're at a Gooding auction or RM auction at Monterey. Is one of these a true Yellowbird that's selling for 5, 6 million? Is it going to outpace a Gunther Works?
All right, so stop there because that's segment 5, and I love how you're moving the conversation along today. That's great. All right, so let's go on to the next question, segment 4. You guys ready?
Mhm.
All right, so what are the most overhyped cars today that will not hold interest or value over time? And David, why don't you go first?
Well, for me, and I think it's a quantity both from a media onslaught for me personally, as well as just the cars in general. And I don't have a picture of it because there you go. Paul's got a picture of it. Thank you, Paul.
You guys
Is the Corvette. Both any of these Corvettes, right? At the moment, Chevy can't give them away. There's so many, and I'm not talking about the high-end cars, but just the general C8s. They're discounting the crap out of them because they're sitting there on dealer showroom floors and they just can't move them. And I think that was back to a conversation we had about quantity of a supercar versus the quality. I mean, this is a fantastic car that seems to beat every car that rolls out on it on the drag strip and all the YouTube videos I see where it's running against a Huracan or running against a Ferrari, and the Corvette wipes the ass of these two cars with it time after time after time after time. But when it comes down to it, these guys that will have paid the huge money for the Z06 or the ZR1 because they were limited, a few years from now, the bottom just falls out of those cars. So for me, it's a value thing, and that's my overhyped car right now.
And you're
I
not
think
a,
it's
The ZR1 and the ZR1 X.
and you're not a Corvette hater either, because your next example on it, and please do mention it, because I think this is interesting, because frankly, I'm looking at other notes that people are kind of agreeing with you.
Yeah.
So talk about the next
I feel
one.
the same way. Yeah, I feel about the same way about the ST, right? The 911 ST, which I think I've not driven one. Casey, I'm dying to hear about your experience this week as you take that thing for a little spin. Although obviously, I think it's still got delivery miles on it, right, or something.
Yeah, I'll get to that when you guys get to me in a second.
Okay, but I think that car is overhyped because when it's all said and done, it's another 911, right? So you're paying what, 300, 400,000 dollars over sticker for some of these cars right now. That's just insane.
But
Why
the
would you
price,
do that?
the prices on those are settling down to reality pretty quick. There's one that just closed, a really pretty car. It's on BAT. I think I put it in the notes. It's a blue one, and I think there were some selling like a month ago for 750, 850, like real sales. And I think this one was in the mid 500s. But your point, Dave, is that the parts transference is what Ferrari does, which frankly pisses a lot of people off. You guys know what the Pista is? Hey, Paul, what's the Pista? Ferrari 8 Pista, Ferrari quiz.
I think it's a pasta that's spun a
Yeah,
certain way to hold the
exactly.
noodles.
All right, so the Pista, all the special cars at Ferrari, I'll be quick, don't worry, you guys won't agonize for long. All right, always had special motors. Well, Ferrari took the special motor in the Pista and put it in the production F8, and then they took that same motor and they put it in the SF90. They're taking that same motor that was originally the Pista and they're putting in this new Testarossa. Well, what makes you think that Porsche is not going to do the same thing with all these cool little bangles and bangles that made the ST so amazing? Of course, there's going to be parts transference. No, it might not have magnesium parts and all this other stuff, but most people will never be able to tell a difference. So I agree, actually. I'm worried about those ST values, especially as more of them come off lease.
So I mean, that argument went back 10 years ago, the 911R and the
Yep.
991.2 GT3 Touring. And, there was tons of back-to-back comparisons. Now, ironically, everyone I speak to who owns one swears by it. Even our friend Dirk, who I would expect to say the 911, like they're the same thing. He owns one. And I always felt like, is this the emperor has no clothes?
But
Or
there's
is
not.
that argument, are they different enough to command double the value? No, triple the value.
But Kramer, they're not the parts transference, but there wasn't that much. The original R legitimately had a lot of special stuff that the production, I mean, when I think the story goes that Porsche was like, holy crap, people are willing to pay that for a wingless GT3, right? Essentially, I know that's not true, but it's basically it. And the parts transference to the, touring, that wasn't that much. Whereas on these new cars, it's a lot. I mean, how many different cars does Porsche put their GT3 or GT3 RS motor in? A lot. And
Yeah.
so all I'm saying is to validate or agree with Dave's point. The ST, I think, may be suffering from, well, what's the new car going to have? Oh, it's got all the ST parts because that's what Ferrari does, and Ferrari got away with it. Porsche will try too. Casey, what are you thinking as we yammer?
So I think the key difference between talking about Porsche GT product and talking about Corvette product is Corvette. I remember I had a friend that bought a Z06 and he was excited to pay 50 grand over for the car. He was excited. I got one. I got 50 grand over. 6 months later, that was a 50 grand under car. You know, when we look at a Porsche, what people are willing to pay for it is not going to transfer to, in a year from now, it's going to be worth half of the original MSRP. That's the difference. That's the difference between looking at a 911 ST that's a 300 and couple thousand, I don't even know what they are, 320,
335.
330.
Like 300, yeah.
So you get a 300, the 911 ST will always be worth $335,000. 100%. These people because basically they're coming off of lease now because owners have owned them for a year, which means that they can flip them. And now that the first guy, I think the first one on Bring a Trailer sold for 800 plus fees. And it was a shore blue car, not that exciting. It's the same one that I'm going to be in well, I'll get to that in a second. But
Yep.
it's cool color. It's a cool car. A lot of them are shore blue. It's communication color. It's like white GT4 RSs, which I think in the long run are the best looking GT4 RSs. So the ST will probably work on me the same way. But coming back to it, an ST is never going to be worth $150,000 unless it's a quarter of the car that was in a really bad accident. You know, a Corvette is going to have that diminished value because Porsche always builds less cars than the market demands. That's not the mindset with most car companies. They will build as many cars as possible if they have people that want to buy them.
Let's just hope. Let's just hope
Sometimes too
Porsche.
many.
Let's hope Porsche doesn't do the same thing. And I'll go next, and Paul, you can go last because your points are pretty much, So I'll go anything. Again, the question was, what are the most overhyped cars today that will not hold value or interest over time? And I'll just summarize it. Anything EV. I can't see anything EV being something that someone's going to want in the future. Hummer EV, Tesla Cybertruck, Porsche Macan or Taycan Turbo GT, whatever the top influencers are all yammering about now. That's my secondary thing. So the influencers are bringing up, again, the younger generation. They're hyping up cars that when all the other influencers that are competing with for attention on Instagram in particular, this sounds so insane for me to say this, but I know it's happening. So as soon as all those influencers are all, oh my gosh, you got to get a G63 or a G-Wagon or whatever, or a Purosangue. As soon as they all get them, then someone's got to play the one-ups game. And the example would be like a Lamborghini Aventador. The influencers were all driving the SVJs and the Roadsters and all the rest of it. And then when all of them were driving the same cars, then what did they hop up to? The Bugattis. So if you want to know what cars are going to be, in my opinion, they're the most overhyped, that won't hold their value. Anything EV and anything that the influencers are now saying are the cars to get, because that'll just be completely topsy-turvy. Paul?
Well, I mean, so just humor me with this quick montage, and this is my argument. You look at it. I mean, they look.
They're all
Maybe this is.
green.
They all look the same. I mean, they're
I
like
know.
they look
I
like
know.
if you went back to
Listeners,
my
Paul is showing pictures of hypercars that all look the same.
and if you went back to my Indian Guides Pinewood Derby cars day, that's what kind of we built. You have the McLaren Senna, you have the Rimac, was it Rimac or however you pronounce it? You have the Koenigsegg, uh, and you have the ZR1X Corvette. And I think at the end of the day, you know, who's going to care about these cars? In there, I just don't see it. I mean, the McLaren Senna looks like every other McLaren they made for the last decade, and I
Ultra
don't know.
modern things don't tend to age well.
That's
No,
Right?
a
I
really
mean,
good.
Think about the cars of the future, the Futurama stuff from back in the 60s or whatever, and you look at those cars today that were supposed to be super high tech and aerodynamic and all that. There's
I
just
mean,
no, they don't age well.
how is that? Sorry, this is the Koenigsegg, this is the Rimac. I mean, I don't even know. Who
But you know
cares?
what, guys? Casey really said it right when he said the word romance. Is there's no romance or there's no emotional tie to those cars. I'm just because they're just the next lawn dirt is what those all look like, right? But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how much that will matter to the younger generation because a lot of them, because of their age, are buying cars to try to impress other people. They're buying it to hate using this term, but to flex, not because they're true car enthusiasts. Now, some of them might become true car enthusiasts, but time will tell. Casey, go ahead. Sorry.
I was at the guy that does my body work for me locally, really awesome guy named Nick. You guys would all like him a lot. Very, very, very talented. I was at his shop the other day and he prepares amazing cars like Isogrifos for Monterey. And I was up there the other day and he had a 275 in just raw aluminum sitting on a buck being smoothed out by people that really knew what they were doing. And that car,
You're saying a
just in,
Ferrari
yeah,
275?
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, the stuff that he does, Tim, if you ever come up this way, I'll take you there.
Were they
But
steel or alloy, Casey? Do you know?
I think they were aluminum back then, if I'm
No,
not
they were
mistaken.
steel. The alloy
Okay.
ones are really, really rare. You should ask him.
Okay. Well, it shows what I know about Ferraris. But just looking at that car sitting there in that state was just breathtaking. And I am not often smitten, but if you look at a car like that, and I'm not even that big of a Ferrari guy, but just seeing that in that form was just
Why?
perfect.
Why?
Just because the shape and the essence of the car just being in its presence made me feel something. And it's hard to say that. I mean, the only other car that I get like that around anymore is like 300 SLs, like
So,
a
so
really nice 300 SL Roadster or Gullwing.
you're saying something that's really awesome, and I want to drill down on this. So you thought the shape was beautiful and it touched you emotionally. You weren't attracted to it because other people were telling you to be attracted to it, or because maybe you had some genealogy with the car because your dad had one. The design itself is really what blew you away. I think
Yep.
that's actually a high point of today's podcast. That's very interesting because
Yeah.
that's in essence what everyone's looking for. They're looking for that little, that little emotional attachment to something. And I love the fact that Casey had that experience with a Ferrari because that's the gateway drug for me to convert him into even more Ferrari stuff. But when was the last time, Casey, prior to that, you ever had that emotional, like, damn, that's gorgeous?
Well, well, I think it's archetypal. I mean, I think it's like something that's ingrained in humans. You see shapes, see these things that just, to me, it made me feel like, God, if I could, like Ferrari Daytonas, like there was that Top Gear episode where I think Richard Hammond drove one around Lake Como a zillion years ago, and it was amazing. He was racing somebody in a boat, and somebody, I think James May was
I
in an
remember.
airplane. But to me, the only other car like Porsches I see all the time. If I'm around a real a 550, if I'm around an RSK, a 906, those cars do it. But the only other one that's done it recently is I saw an all original It might have been resprayed a long time ago, but it was this pewter colored beat 300 SL Roadster or 300 SL Gullwing, and it just looks so good.
I
So,
agree.
so,
You and I have the
so
same taste.
Casey, McLaren Senna in its raw form, like the 275, this isn't going to emotionally drive you right there.
I take care of McLaren Sennas. I drive
I mean,
McLaren Sennas.
but
It's cool. It's to me, it's if you had to buy a McLaren, it is the most interesting one. However, it's not for me.
It's a
I
heart
mean,
versus head thing, right? That's really what we're describing
It's
here.
right,
it's the
like,
difference between a Zinger and a roof yellowbird.
but like,
It's a thing that exists in a computer versus a thing that exists like Rod Emery's son-in-law that's rolling that piece of metal on an English wheel.
This would be a bad time to let you know that we're all living in a simulation. I don't know if you studied the simulation theory. We all
You
might
know,
be little.
I saw the Matrix.
Matrix,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
But the point being, going back to what Casey said is, and there's a shop near us in Costa Mesa where he does Ferrari things, and just seeing even the raw body, modern cars, you don't see a raw body. Even when I was at Roof looking at taking a tour, they all look the same. They're this weird fiberglass monocoque that they hang panels on. So you never really see it in this sort of raw, complete silhouette as it was hammered on a buck. So maybe, and that's the one thing that's different from today versus all the previous years, is like going back to what Casey said, that the romance there, you can't see it in its raw form. It is a computer driven image that suddenly becomes a car. And then okay, great. And as a result of being a computer driven image, they all start looking
But
the
Kramer,
exact
Kra-
same.
Kramer, so the question that Casey actually
I
brought
love
up,
when he calls me Kramer. He's just like,
I know. You started on me at the top of the show, bro. I'm getting you back. All right. So if you did not read the comments over there, I said we need to stop talking over each other except for when Paul is talking. So the question is that Casey brought up is when was the last time you saw a car and you stopped being so damn, you were more brand agnostic and it just like emotionally touched you. Like the first time you saw, you know, some female thing where it's like, oh my gosh, that's a whole aspect of life I've yet to discover, that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean,
When?
we were talking earlier, the M Coupe, the Z3 M Coupe floored me,
Okay.
and I became obsessed. The clown shoe. I had to have it.
But it's interesting that you try a lot of our analytical brains try to convince ourselves something's beautiful and we discount the emotional reaction to it because it's easier for designers to sell us and marketers to sell us on this top speed in the tires and all this, analytical spreadsheet shit. But it's really hard to have an emotional attachment to a product. Dave, how about you? When was the last time you saw something that just emotionally like, holy shit, I wasn't expecting that feeling?
This is going to blow you away, Tim, but it was the picture that I sent you probably a couple of weeks ago when I really first laid eyes in a exterior setting and was paying attention to the 296 and walked up on one in a not the typical, Rosa Corsa color, and it was just kind of blew me away. It was a Ferrari that I actually liked because most of them do not appeal to me at all physically. But that car, I just thought the lines of that car, it wasn't overdone. It was a beautiful car. So I was kind of like, wow, okay, there's a Ferrari I can get behind. So I really did like that car.
That's the only modern car that I think is beautiful. I agree. That's the 296 is the only modern car I think is beautiful. All the others, and I'll tell you what one of the ugliest cars is, and I'd love to get viewer hate or listener hate from this. I think the GT3 RS is an abomination, but I still want one.
So
I
you can
do.
do sideshow takeovers in Puerto Rico.
But I still no, I wouldn't have it here. But I think the car is amazing. I desperately want one. I'm going to have one. But it is crazy looking. It just you can't say that car is beautiful. You can't. You could say it's menacing. You can say it's purposeful, but it's not
Brutal.
beautiful. To Casey's point, there's no romance in that. I mean,
Do
your
do
wife or your girlfriend gets into that thing just because you're taking her to a nice restaurant. That's it.
do you think that I mean the reason that Ferrari doesn't do Nürburgring lap times is because they do work more towards aesthetics on their vehicles rather than aerodynamics and building cars that specifically are designed to lap tracks at insanely fast speeds?
Yeah, I 100% think so. I mean, you can remember the tradition of Ferrari is that Enzo used to go to Pininfarina across town. I told you guys this story before. And I heard the story from Pininfarina when Julie and I were at Pininfarina in Toronto or Torino or whatever it is, years ago, 2011, that in essence, Enzo had a contract for a long period of time to buy all of his bodies specifically from Pininfarina. And Pininfarina would design these cars. Enzo would show up and he said, I like that one. And then basically that would be the design. He'd take that body back, and then the engineering would happen after they decide what the car was going to look like. And so it's done by completely different people. You can tell that Ferrari is no longer using Pininfarina, and now they're using an internal, design house that's doing the designs. You can tell it doesn't have that same Casey romantic look to it, with the exception of the 296. The 296 is the last one that sort of had the curvaceous, beautiful. It looked modern, but at the same time, there's a little bit of homage involved. It was a perfect organic design. I don't mean to
I
yammer
mean,
about Ferraris.
I love the Roma. I think the Roma is pretty.
I
There's a
agree,
couple
actually.
design elements with that, but I like how simple, and I also like the fact that the name of the car is not a number, which is a personal thing. I
So
wish we
if
go
you were
back
to
to that.
have these cars, right? Let's assume that none of us had any relationship with any of these brands right now, right? That we had no 30-year history loving Porsches or Ford, whatever the case. And you put this GT3 RS next to a 296, next to a McLaren, whatever, a
Artura would be
720.
competition, Dave. Artura would be competition. Yeah.
Okay, which car would people gravitate to knowing nothing else? What
Not
design
not
would pull them in?
not being brainwashed from the brand. What car do they like
Exactly.
aesthetically the best?
What
Yeah.
car would step out to somebody, that had never seen one? They stepped off the spaceship and suddenly they're looking at these three cars. I don't know that there's a definitive answer per se, but I would certainly say from a overall design study that, and again, I'm not a Ferrari guy. I'm not, but that 296 is actually quite a beautiful, beautiful car. I mean,
Those
this
cars are
got
the
great
deal that
lines.
did you guys listen to the most recent Chris Harris podcast? Maybe it was the one before that.
I did.
They had a similar
I did, yeah.
conversation. And Chris said he thinks that the best, like most ridiculously undervalued car right now is the 296. And it
Yep.
is 830, or I don't even know how much horsepower a car has, 820 or 830 horsepower, assuming the battery's charged, by the way. Yeah. So in any event, you guys want to move on? Are we good?
Well, I did get, I
Sorry.
texted my buddy Nick. He said it is a steel bodied car, but is one of one, and it came equipped from the factory with a 4-cam motor.
Is he restoring that for someone, or is it his car?
He's restoring it for someone.
I wonder if
That car will be at Pebble in 2 years.
yeah, that's awesome. Look forward to seeing it. What do you know what
Yeah.
color it's going to be? Sorry, we're
Don't
stay on Ferraris evidently.
I can ask him.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope
I'll
it's
chime
not
in.
red.
I'm sure it's not red.
Yep. All right, cool. And it's funny too, in old Ferraris, if you do a color change, it affects the value, but really not by that much, as long as you use a period color. Unlike with Porsches, it's fascinating. You guys ready for segment 5? Everybody good?
Yep, bring it.
Okay, good. You guys want to take any breaks for coffee refresh, anything like that? We good?
Good to
All right,
go.
good. These are marathon podcasts, but our podcast
Yeah.
listeners love it.
My catheter's in, my coffee's full, ready to go.
Bro, I need one of those.
Rock on.
Actually, a catheter still? You
No.
mean no? Oh God, that'd be awful. All right, segment 5. This week in auctions. What are your top 2? What are you following? And why? What is it that you find interesting that's happening right now in the car market? And I will go last. Let me. Casey, are you good to go? No, I see you're typing. Dave, why don't you go first?
Well, this car was interesting, and it's interesting for a reason, that I've got one here that we're going to be rebuilding for a well-known NASCAR driver. And he bought the car, he bought the tub from me 2 years ago now. And it's basically just a tub. 58, so last year the Speedster. The car had some racing history to it. It had been banged up. I think I've got part of the rear suspension, but basically it's a tub. And we're going to go through a process to restore this car and put it back on the road. Don't know about color, but I was just watching this car because it's probably a 10-year-old restoration, maybe even longer than that, maybe close to 20-year-old restoration, but it didn't meet reserve. I mean, this car, I think the seller wants to do around 300, 310, something like that. But nicely redone car. but just didn't make the numbers. And it had been up on Bring a Trailer previously, and ultimately, I think it didn't meet number then, and as a result, I think it even fell below that. Kind of to Paul's point previously.
What were the
Once it gets
numbers? What were the numbers,
this
Dave?
car, it topped at 285 was the where this car, and I think sellers probably looking for three something, 310, 315, something like that.
What year is
Nice
that
car.
one?
It's a
58.
57.
Oh,
So
this
this one's a
57,
57.
So it's a T. Is it a T2?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, and then what did it not sell for previously, and how long ago was
No
that?
84, no sale at 284.
But didn't
So
you say
again,
it sold earlier? Like how long ago?
no, he had marketed earlier and he got it up just to a little under three, like another 10 grand on it earlier this year, back in April, I think. Same reseller, marketed the car, different set of photos. It only got to again 284, and I think but the comments suggested the car was close. So I'm assuming this buyer is looking for a little over 300, something like that.
What's the
I would tell you that a speedster is another one of those cars that evokes passion. A really
definitely
good looking speedster
Great.
for I mean, and I think I hate to point it back to movies because that's going to be next week's podcast, but Top Gun,
come on now.
Speedster, come
Kelly
on
McGillis
now.
in her day.
Come
McGillis.
on now, man. It's hard to beat that. All right, sorry. Keep going, Dave.
No, that's quite all right.
But that was a great pick.
Well, this car as well. I mean, I've said to many of folks that if I wasn't into Porsches, I just love Aston Martins. I just think they're just gorgeous cars. I really love them. Now, aside from whatever mechanical issues, inavailability of service, all those sorts of things, this particular car to me, which is a 17 launch edition DB11 coupe, obviously, it is just a gorgeous, gorgeous car. It's just got lines. It doesn't have too much, not all the high cuts and, aero stuff. It's just gorgeous. This was a $250,000 car. This one had 37,000 miles on it, and it sold for 85 grand. And I'm thinking, my God, that's a gorgeous car for
That's the Bond car,
85,000.
right? Am I getting it right? I don't want to open up the link because I don't want to start
Sorry,
my,
is it a Vanquish S? What is
yeah.
that car?
That's what I
It is
That's the
that's a
Casino Royale car.
DB11.
No, but I think what Casey's asking you is, and I think it is Casey, if that so the Vanquish S was the car that was in the James Bond, the Casino Royale car, but I think that was the first Bond, was it not? And
Yeah,
with him,
I
yeah.
think so.
We met him at the airport, by the way. What a
Daniel Craig.
gentleman.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah, Daniel Craig. We
Was
met
that didn't that break a world record for the most amount of barrel rolls? It broke some world
I
record
think so. Yeah.
for the crash.
But you're
I can't
right,
remember.
85 grand for that car is astonishing. And
That's what drew me to this as my car to feature this week. I just think it's a gorgeous, gorgeous car.
Yep.
V12, 5.2 liters, just gorgeous. You're going to get looks every place you go. And even though this car is 8 years old at this point, it's still a very pretty car.
you could totally
So
rock
there you go.
that.
There's mine.
You could totally rock that.
Second.
You could.
Yeah, I know.
You're at
I
the
like
point
it.
in life where you can run with the Aston and not worry
Yeah.
about your Porsche customers judging you. They'll just be jealous.
Yeah. Just get your put your captain's hat on and
Totally.
go motoring.
So
My
what's
little
funny?
British,
What's funny, Dave, is that what year is that car?
17.
So the Casino Royale car would have been a lot older than that.
12,
10 or 11.
2012.
Yeah, so I think yes, but it's interesting how I mean that design, that shape, and here's another one,
Back to
DB4,
that point, Casey,
another
right?
beautiful car that evokes passion. DB4, beautiful car, but that car they've done such a good job with their design. Even some of the new, I think DB12s are really beautiful cars.
Yep.
I think
But
Aston,
they stay with that brand. They stay with these design keys that they stay throughout the history of the car with. It's not a new, completely radical design. That's one of my bitches with Ferrari. Everything seems like everything is bespoke. Every model comes out, it's super bespoke. And you can't, other than the color and the badge, you can't really look at something always and say, oh, that's Ferrari. You can't always. And it just seems like it's always coming out with something completely new and different. Meanwhile, this Aston Martin and certainly Porsches kind of lay into that same general. They modify, they evolve, they don't just junk it and start with something brand new.
Well,
That's
it's
what I like.
probably, if we're being honest, it's probably because they don't want to piss off their very few loyal customers who don't want their designs to change.
Yeah.
Because if I understand, I'm not trying to be a smart
No, it's
ass,
true.
but it is true. And the same reason that Rover doesn't change theirs. And I believe that Aston is now owned, not the race team. I could be wrong, but I believe Aston, the manufacturer, is owned by a sovereign wealth fund over out of like Qatar or something. I might be confusing my facts with McLaren, and someone will certainly, redirect me if I am. I have a question for you guys. Do you guys ever go to this Bulldog AutoJapan.com website and look for cars for sale in Japan?
I don't. I mean, my biggest thing is looking at cars. I look at auctions after they close. I don't look at things that are currently selling because once I start that, I know I have a habit, and the first part of admitting is you have a habit is admitting it. And if I see something for sale, which means I can buy it, then I start researching it, and it's a foregone conclusion. I'll end up with something I shouldn't. So no, I don't. I didn't look at it, but until today, and it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So all these cars that are coming over Japan, I was curious, well, how's that happening? And what's happening is those guys right there, they will go to the auctions for you and they inspect the car to what degree, I don't know. And they bid on the car, they charge you a flat fee and they help you ship the car to the West Coast and then, you're off to the races. But if you're listener, viewer, if you're interested in buying cars from Japan, you're wondering why all these 964s and whatnot are coming over from Japan. It's because they're mostly getting shipped from this Bulldog AutoJapan.com website, which, I researched the guys too. They seem like, I think they're American actually that are doing that over in Japan, which is kind of cool.
Next
So,
week we should do a competition where we find our favorite Bulldog Japan car to import. No, bad idea.
oh, I love it.
No, because then
Rabbit hole.
I'll take it too seriously.
Sure.
You'll own one.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up with that TR2, basically. All
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So, Casey, why don't you go next? What are you watching in the auctions?
So I've got the two auctions that I'm currently watching. I've got a set of 997 Sport bucket seats up that I am listing right now in case anybody's interested. But
Can I
the
ask you,
two,
can I ask you questions
sure.
about those?
Yep.
So I saw, and by the way, I thought your video on Insta was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That would have been funny to have you trial sitting on them, like Paul was suggesting, just because it was kind of funny. Like this is how you sit in the seat. This is so. But I have some questions based on what I learned from your video. Number one, how are those different than the ones you've already sold for 30 grand? Number two, you said they're the best modern Porsche seat, and I want to know why.
Because it's this thing that everybody was looking. So let me do two things. How they are different. The ones that the $30,000 seats were never sat in. They are absolutely brand new. Paul never
No
farted in
ass has
them.
ever
I was about to
touched them,
say,
Never.
Casey.
I was
No.
about to say, no one has farted in them.
No, they that was literally the first
That's
time
free.
they were ever removed from the factory packaging was what I put on that video. And to my knowledge, I have never seen anything like that hit the market. The seats that I'm listing are interesting. They came out of a Cayman GT4 that I sold new to go into another Cayman GT4 that I also sold new, which was pretty interesting. And those seats they're used, they're in very, very good shape. They're Alcantara centers versus
So the seats are
leather
the same.
centers.
The seats are the same, but one set's just basically essentially, NOS, new original stock, and the others were satin. But are they the same or aren't they the same? I honestly don't know.
I mean, it's a sport bucket seat. It's the same seat that would have come in a 2008 GT2, which is when those seats first came out.
That's what I was going to ask you. So a GT4 16 is the same as a
No, no, no.
997.2?
Cayman R.
Oh, that's
Ah,
from a Cayman R. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
So
981. That's
yeah.
987.2.
Yep.
So that would have been the same seat as a 99. So 997.2 seats,
Yep.
buckets, are what people are just losing their mind over,
And
correct?
they're in. So I sit in a whole lot of really uncomfortable seats. 918 seats are not comfortable.
nope.
997 buckets are considerably more comfortable than 918 seats. And then you can also fold them forward. So you can
Mm.
put stuff behind them. You can get behind, like yesterday, I was delivering a Dakar to a client and it had sport buckets in it. I had to figure out how to get in the back of the car to clean the rear window because it was like a delivery mile car that was just had grossness on the inside. So, Yes, foldable seats, which is now where Porsche is going back to with the second gen 992 car because everybody complained that the back of the car was useless.
All right, I've got another question, and if you guys don't know this, it's okay because I heard that the seats in the 918 and the seats in the Speedster are different than the sport seats that they put in the Touring and all the other sport seats. So the 918 and the Speedster, the 991.2 Speedster share the same seats, but the 918 seats, even though people and using they say that my car's got 918 seats, if they're not one of those two cars, it's not the case. Do you guys know if that's true?
Well, in 918s you could get a wider seat, but it wasn't necessary. The seat itself wasn't wider. The padding was different, to my knowledge.
So the
And
bucket wasn't actually wider.
So
I do not believe so. I mean, I'll put it this way. I was in a 918 yesterday and I was in a Dakar yesterday and the seats felt exactly the same, except for the 918 was a full leather seat and the Dakar it was one of the Rothmans ones. So it had the stitching and Alcantara in the center,
But Casey,
they
Was it
felt the
just the
same.
upright positioning, or what was it about that seat that felt so different? All
To-
those fixed bucket seats are pretty similar.
Well, the 918 seats, which is what we'll call them, have a adjustment where you can move the front of the seat up and down. That makes it a lot more comfortable for people to get, of course, in and out of. The 997 seat, a lot of people, there are companies that make spacers to actually tilt them back to make those seats more comfortable. But to me, I would much rather get in and out of a 997 versus any 991 or later car with the 918 seats in them.
So I'm going to put out a challenge to all of our listeners and viewers because I was told what I would just shared with you guys by somebody that I consider knowledgeable. So whoever gets answers the question, are 918 and Speedster seats different than normal Porsche Sport seats? You're going to get a free Full Throttle Talk sticker. Okay. How about that? We'll give you a free sticker. So help us out. Just put
The
it.
envelope to ship it there will cost more than the sticker itself. But by
Well, but
God, we'll give
it's a
you
cool.
one.
No, we'll give them two so they can
Brand.
put it on both their windows, right?
Perfect. I love
We
it.
might even put in a few more. So, but the moral
So
of the story is, if you guys know the answer to that question, put it in comments on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. So, I think that's interesting. I
uh,
find this kind of nerdy stuff, high nerd, interesting stuff.
quickly back to my auctions. Two I'm watching. The one behind me is a one owner, 200,000 mile 1992 911 Carrera Coupe. That car is closing in 5 days. It's currently at 45 grand. I
Wow.
always talk about how great one owner cars are. I recommend checking that one out. And the
Have
other
you,
one
hey,
that,
Casey, let me
yes,
stop
sir,
on that call for just 1 second because I think this guy's going to get blown up in this particular auction from what I've watched.
blown up
I think
meaning
meaning the photos aren't great. He doesn't have specific answers when he's being asked questions about the car. It'll be just an interesting thing to see how the car carries the day as a 964 versus the way this guy is presenting it, which to me is always the key to getting the maximum value out of a auction on BAT. He is he seems like he's not using someone else as an intermediary to answer his questions. He's not answering the questions appropriately. He's blowing himself up on his own auction, is my point. And the car itself is not presented particularly well.
the difference between that's the service that I offer, and I think Dave, that might be what you're segueing to between you, Dave, Paul, and I. We do the diligence in advance. I'm this afternoon, I'm going to do principal photography on a 1976 Trans Am with a built 455 in it. Before 2 months ago, I knew nothing about 1976 Trans Ams with 455 cubic inch engines. But as a professional, it's my job to figure that out. Being that I own a 964, I'm really excited that this guy has owned that car for a long time. Sure, if it's not had a top end, it's probably going to need one soon. Everybody buying that car should expect that. The car did, according to him, have a glass out respray. The only other one of these cars that I've seen transact recently which was a one owner car, was I think it was earlier in the year. Nathan Mers listed it, and it was a 160,000 mile one owner car. I think it was a 90 or 91 that had rod around the windshield, but he did it textbook. everything was documented. He showed everybody what they needed. He showed compression numbers. He showed everything and said that the car was healthy and it was a great driver. And that's effectively the same kind of car that I own. So this car, this 92 is currently at it's currently at what, 50, 40,
45.
45 grand. I'm
Mhm.
watching it because I love stuff like this. The other car that I am wanted, actually, I flipped up the wrong picture here,
But
but the
Casey,
other, yes, sir.
don't you think the unfortunate truth about that car is it's being bought by somebody that's going to send it to Singer to make it into something else? Because there are a lot of cars that start, if you run VIN numbers on modern Singers that use the original VIN, a lot of them were basically bought just like that car.
Tim, I don't want to think about it. Next car. So
I agree. I 100%
Denial.
agree.
in the late aughts, early tens of the 2000s, I did marketing for a company called TPC Racing based out of Jessup, Maryland. And we supplied suspension parts to Cayman Inter Series cars. It was basically a series of racing put together by Napleton Porsche that they did. It was kind of like an IROC car, but they were 2011 Caymans with, they put air jacks in them and JRZ suspension and suspension components from a couple of different companies, TPC being one of them. One of them is being auctioned off. I don't see these come to market very often. They're all done in cool liveries. The one that's being listed as a Canon car, I'm going to change to the one that I always looked at, which is a low and brow car, which here you see strapped to the dyno. When I worked at TPC, you can see the GT2 above it. That was probably, I don't know, Mike probably paid 120 grand for that car. That was
Oh,
like,
hey,
it's like a
Casey,
nothing thing. What?
Casey, are you realizing that Paul's example this week is essentially the sister of that car, is all the way down to the, the number and everything? That is
No,
hilarious.
I didn't. I didn't. Well, the low and brown number 14
Race
A
cars.
was the
Holbert.
Holbert car that won
Yeah.
Daytona.
Yeah.
So it's great livery. But I only brought that car up because that was the one that I was familiar with, and I tried not to peek at other people's things were this week. But
No,
um,
this isn't what I this was just a car. This is from 2007. It was a car we built and I love that livery. So as soon as I
sure.
saw that, I'm like, I gotta throw that picture of a car up.
All right.
One of
So,
my
Paul,
clients owned the number 14 car,
The
the real one.
962,
yeah.
it was a 962. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Paul,
Anyway, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Since you were a meanie earlier, you're going to go last. So can somebody else help me out with the slides? I put the links there, whoever's quick. And if listeners and viewers, you're wondering why I don't put slides up, it's because I have to, manage all these other things that are on my computer screen. And frankly, I don't have the intellectual horsepower anymore to manage more than three or four things at once, and barely at that. So the two cars I was paying attention to, because again, I just think this is very fascinating what's happening in the market, because there's definitely some sort of weird shift that's happening, is a 911 GT2. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about that car. Because in my humble opinion, that car, okay, remember we were asking, Casey said passion, oh my God, I love it. When I was at Modena, Miami, whatever it was, for the RM auction and whatnot earlier this year, there was a 911 just GT, which is 993 GT, that was sitting there that was white, and that was the last, or that was the uh, one of the few times in the last 5 years even I had an immediate emotional reaction to a car because it was so gorgeous. So I'm watching that car because I've sort of got that on my bucket list idea now. And also, I'm very fascinated that those cars, thank you, Paul. And actually, I think it was that car that I saw.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a Zweck car, so that makes sense.
yeah,
If it
it
was in
does.
Miami,
I'm pretty sure it was. And the guys were super nice. And I'm comparing it in my mind to like a 918, because those cars are basically the same price. But then for interest's sake, and we don't have to yammer about this, but I was going on to classics.com. Thank you guys for tipping me off to how good that site is. And I was looking at the market on these things, and the values on these things, 964s, have been flat for a long period of time. All the while, all these resto rods have been going up in value, or at least they've been coming to market and attracting the same consumer that would have been buying one of those. The one exception is the 918 has had a nice run, but the 964 RS, the 993 GT, again, which I think is gorgeous, those are the cars I'm watching, and I'm wondering if the market's going to come back on those, if the market's going to fall. I don't know. It's just sort of an intellectual exercise. It's sort of fills my day. So there you go. Those are the two cars I was watching. You guys have any thoughts on that? Any opinions?
No, I mean, I actually, in the next segment, if we get to it, 918 was definitely on there, and I think it is a special car. But um, Yeah, I was busy with the pictures. The one you talked about, this was the 964 GT,
993.
93.
right. 99, oh, the 9996 993 GT2.
Yep.
What did they want? Like 2 million? It was
Less. No,
less
I
one
don't know how
point.
much they're asking for that one. Probably 2 million. But I went on classics.com. I looked for comps and I'm looking right now. Da, 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 da. There was a sale that was recent, like a few days ago. You know what that might
Oh,
be?
1.1.2. I see it. The
There you
silver
go.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, so the silver
What,
one was
was it
1.2.
a club sport that went for 1.2 or a street
Oh,
car?
no, it
Because
says
the street cars go for a lot more money than
I did.
the
It's in
race
the notes,
cars.
guys. Yeah.
Oh,
The standard GT2, in case you're right, the standard GT2 was that recently sold. We don't know what the condition of the cars were. Was 1.4, where the Club Sport was a recent sale was around 2 million. So, and then if you compare that to a 918, okay, there you go, 30 comps. I put the information right there. I don't know. I mean, what would you guys rather have if you have to choose between a 918 and a 99? If you can only have one, what would you choose?
oh, ooh. Uh, You're
I'd
trying to
take the
get me to say
918.
nine. You're trying to get me to say 993. Ugh.
it's a close one for me. I mean,
It is
I'm
Yeah.
close.
the problem with 918s, and a problem that, is the bottom of the car is carbon fiber. The car is such a liability that it honestly there are certain cars in this world that scare me. I was quick segue. I'm going to go to the Porsche Club of America open house this weekend, and I was planning on bringing a 918, because why not? I have the opportunity to. It's fine, but that 50-mile drive to and from where the car is stored is, if something happens, it's not a good thing. So I'm taking an ST instead. So if anybody shows up at the Porsche Club of America open house this weekend, and you see a tall guy with glasses, probably wearing a Group C curation shirt next to a 911 ST, that will be me. Please say hello. Dave has not sent me stickers yet, so I cannot give you any.
Dave,
The mail still works, Casey. We're good.
dropping the
I'll send
ball.
some stickers to you today.
I'd probably go with the 993 because it's a lot more of the era. I mean, I've told the story before, but I did 175 in the rain in a 918 at Road Atlanta on the back straight, and it was absolutely terrifying, and it was like something that I will never forget. But a 993 GT2, as odd as this sounds to me, as a significantly more livable automobile that you could actually use without being terrified of something happening to it.
We didn't talk
Yeah.
about this, but all this carbon fiber bodied stuff, how many body shops are out, they're out there and know how to fix carbon fiber? I mean, the reason that houses are still made out of wood is because there's not very many people that know how to make them out of 3D printed or steel. So I'm just curious about where the world's going to go as more cars start to go. They're going to get junked faster is the moral of the story. They're going to get essentially binned
Yeah.
quicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and I agree with Casey. I'd choose the 993. But
to
I
sit
know.
next to
Trust
sit
me,
next
it
to your
hurts.
Corvette.
For the livability of it. But like I think going back to the question, today's generation, what is going to have bigger future value? The 918, the will have bigger future value. This will, like you're already seeing, will kind of flatten out because the people that are interested in this are people born in 70s and 80s, and the people born in the 90s are going to want that.
But dude,
And
Let me give you my spin on that though.
go, please,
Go back to the other picture, Paul, if you don't mind.
and
Okay,
move
I can take a
your
wide
big melon.
bodied, I
Thank
can
you.
take a wide bodied 993, and I can get that look by adding some body panels. It's like the difference between, I can put that tail on it. I can make that car look that way. Now, Paul, switch over to the 918.
oh, you mean you're going to build that? Okay.
No, no.
Wait, I thought you said you
I'm
didn't like RWB cars earlier.
I don't. You're missing the point I'm trying to make is the 918 is a car that's unique. It's you're not going to make one of those, right? You're not going to wide body it. You're not going to That's why I think that's the choice as far as which car do you pick. The other car is a 993. That's what it is. It's a wide the 993 with a great motor, great suspension, full body
Horrible
work.
wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with those speed lines
Italian
on there.
Italian wheels, I might point out, Paul, from Speedline.
I-
Casey,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Casey,
so
You
I,
guys
I,
disagree? I mean,
well, I, but so my buddy Yuri and I, work together most days. And yesterday I pulled the 918 out. I did a short loop. Honestly, I did half of it in electric because it's kind of wild that the car is an electric motor that moves it around. And I brought it back in, and my buddy Yuri just stood there and stared at it. And he's like, it looks like a spaceship. Trust me, it is insane. It is amazing. And if I was never going to drive either of them, the 918 would be the car that I would own because it is
Okay,
art. It
that's
is
fair.
stunning,
But let me go
but
back. Let
it's
me go back to
terrifying, Dave.
let me
It's
go back to
terrifying
Dave's
for a
point.
guy like me.
Because I'm sorry for jumping over you, Dave, but you did have a really good point, and I actually agree with you. If you want, you can replicate pretty closely that 993 GT experience. You can't replicate the 918 experience, and I think for that reason, you're probably. I do agree. You're right, certainly about what direction the market's going to go, and your logic behind it. I honestly I agree with. The only answer is earn more money and buy both. Truthfully,
And you know what? You guys are all right. I changed my mind. I should have gone with my first thought, which was 918. The carbon fiber point, Casey scared me. And you know what? If you can afford that, you're not really worried about that. That'll get fixed. You'll send it back to Porsche. You'll send it wherever. But I forgot the thing. We're talking about the things that are beautiful that strike you, and you're just like have an emotional tag. And I remember when the 918 came out, everyone was like, hybrid. It was the first kind of like I mean, we were still struggling with it being an F1 and some of the racing series. And we're like, this is just cheesy. And there was a video with Chris Harris in some Middle East racetrack in the middle of nowhere. And he's doing his electric thing. He turns on the gas motor, and the exhaust out the top of the engine throw flames. And I just go,
I'm out.
myself. I'm done. I want that car. I remember
Yeah.
distinctly telling my wife, like, look at this. I rewound it and watched it just this, and this is on a video. And so I can't believe I forgot that moment that it wasn't, the body was so beautiful. It was this sort of like visceral engine throwing flames at the top of the engine, which you never see, and this sound, which, think about Porsche sounds that are really unique. Carrera GT and then that one. And the sad thing is, I don't know if the next Halo car will have that sound.
it almost didn't before they decided to pull the literal plug on their
Yep.
electric abomination, and we'll see what they come out with. Sorry, that's
Yep.
I
No,
love
true.
yeah. Well, you know what? That's actually a good there's somebody that didn't present their cars they're watching. Did I
Me.
get every? Oh, well, you know what? We've heard enough from you today. So let's bounce into.
We're 2 hours here now, guys.
I
Two
know
hours.
but listen, guys, I have friends that have podcasts that go for 3-4 hours, and you can look and your people will stop and start listening to it throughout the day. I listen to Joe Rogan podcasts over like 2 and 3 days. So go ahead, Paul. Let's go.
Oh, just really quick. This was a 77 911 back date. And what was really interesting about it was all, for all intents and purpose, a pretty cool looking car. Um, the interior was done nice,
Not
not
overdone.
not overdone, not Sonderworks done, but at least not garish. It had the cool aluminum group wheels. It was just a very tasteful car. This owner, it just closed on Bring a Trailer a couple days ago, sold for 93,500, a fairly recent build. This car, this owner bought it less than 1,000 miles ago in December, and it sold for $129,000. This is without fees. So that's like 135-ish, and now it just sold for like 96.
That's
So
too bad. That's a pretty
the guy
car.
lost
I think that's great.
$35,000. And there's two big reasons. One big reason, one small reason. Three reasons actually. The small reason is backdate 77, you take out the California market. There's no way this is passing emissions and all that. But here is the biggest reason. This I was telling Dave, this is like someone made a Harlequin version of the motor. There is green shroud, red fan, shitty blue coil. When I see this blue coil, it immediately goes, this guy didn't care. And the whole thing about the engine. So after all this build, tell me why it got a 2.7 mid-year engine, nothing rebuilt with Zenith carbs. Like the reason why is they had it laying around. And what that conveyed was where else was the corners cut on this build? And so I think what happened, it was done in Oslo Blue, and I think what happened in December, and the guy said, "Oh, he's got too many cars and he's got something else." My wife, throw the wife under the bus. My wife said, "Get rid of something." All of the bullshit reasons. But the reason someone sells something so soon and you see it, it's epidemic on Bring a Trailer. And it kills the value of a car. I would say cars that get resold on Bring a Trailer for the average, you can just take, within like a year, you can take 15% off the value. Just because the buyer on the other end is going, "What's wrong? What is really wrong?" He's telling me this answer. What's really wrong? I think what the answer is, this guy got swayed by the beautiful photography of the first ad, really nicely shot. By the way, 1600 Veloce, big reseller in the East Coast. You know him. He sold it the first time. This guy looked like he just did his own listing. So you had a great seller, great photography, struck emotion, loved the color, bought it. It showed up. He takes it to his mechanic to just, once over, and his mechanic basically shamed him and said, "What the hell did you buy?" Going back to
I think
Casey's
it's a
point,
replacement motor too, isn't it? I
it's a
think that was
replacement motor. It's
replacement.
not even
Yeah,
the original motor. And
yeah.
it's like, I look at that car, and if you would have just put a 3.2 in it with a nice looking manifold and just not this bullshit colors. So anyway, that car was more interesting to me to show the effect of cars that get resold on Bring a Trailer. And the big question is why they get resold and what that does to value, and also how people don't spend the money to actually finish off a car right.
I
What
think if
case?
the guy would have spent $1,000 and put H1 headlights on it, it would have been worth significantly more money because those headlights ruined that car for me.
Yeah, H4 headlights. I mean, H1s now are 2000 if you
Those
can
look
even
like
find
just
them.
projector headlights, right?
Yeah,
Generic projector
They're
they're
headlights or
gross.
whatever.
by the
Yeah.
way, here's the
Messes up the
irony.
whole vibe.
The ad in December had regular H4s. This is one of the few things this guy did to the
There you
car.
Told
go.
you,
He
man.
effed it
Told
up.
you.
He spent the money not on the car. So that car was interesting, like I said, for what does relisting do? Why do people do it? And how people, low hanging fruit and just don't even like could have cleaned the engine up, done something different. The other car is really one of my guilty pleasures. It's a Jaguar XJ220. It was a car that was doomed from the beginning, from a marketing standpoint, from a bait and switch to customers. It was supposed to have a 12 cylinder, got a 6 cylinder. It was supposed to go 220 miles an hour, which is why it was the XJ220, but it only went 217. And it just, this car was doomed from the beginning. Also, going back to Dave's Aston Martin, British cars, supercars, high level GT cars just never do well on the used market. So this car just sold a couple days ago for $501,000. It was owned, and I don't know if you could see it in the background right there. It was owned by Philip Seraphim, owner of Myers Manx, friend of mine. This was when it was on the Jay Leno show. He gave me the opportunity to drive it. I freaked out. I did not. I wish I would have, but I did sit in it. Um, it is a fantastic car, future value. This car undersold. It should have sold for at least 100 grand more. A lot of work. When Philip got it, he sorted it out. Here's the here is a reason why I think it undersold. It did a gold rush rally, and they did this shit to it. Nothing got damaged. They just wrapped it, and this is a part of an ad that I might have just left out. I don't think people needed to do the gold rush, but it was on Jay Leno's garage when Philip had it. They talked about it. Um, the problem with this is a supercar. Um, it's just, oh my God, this
That
looks like a
interior is so
LeBaron
bad.
interior. It's so bad. But Casey, it does have one bitchin' thing on the driver door panel. This opens with the door that
Oh,
has
that's
those
cool.
gauges. Those are
That's
cool.
dope. That's dope.
But who's the
Beautiful and
who's the buyer for that car in 5 years, let alone 10?
oh,
Jaguar,
just
Jag,
me, just me.
yeah,
There's no
exactly.
buyers. There's
My
no
my
buyers.
yeah.
I always tell people if you look at what I buy, that tells you shouldn't buy that because no one will care. But it will be an awesome experience. If you like to drive and want an awesome experience, because the thing about this car and the people I know who own it, despite probably difficult to maintain, but name a 90s supercar that isn't. It is a fantastic car. And don't forget, this was F40, F50 era. This was 959 era. All of those cars are seven-figure cars, and these are selling for 500,000. And they will never, it's not like, ooh, this is a good buy. Go grab your XJ220 today. This car will never have huge value. For Tim's point, no one really cares. British supercars just don't do that well. But I mean, come on, look how beautiful it is. And by the way, like that thing I sent you, I mean, the cool, really cool pop-up or headlights, they're actually like these little covers that slide back like an old Mercury Cougar or something.
So
So
listen,
those are my
Dave,
two picks.
Dave, if Paul can yammer for 20 minutes straight about a Jaguar that nobody will want in like 24 months, you can certainly buy that Aston Martin. So
Thank you.
let's get to listener questions. All right. So I think we had three or four. Some of them we responded to. I saw you guys were helping out in the Instagram. That was great. So I'm going to try to read this. Okay, here goes. You have a G Body 911. Do you spend money on lightening the car, sunroof delete? This is a good question for Dave, actually. Lighter seats, bumpers, carpet, sound deadening, maybe even shoot it with an interesting color, etc., etc. Or you build the engine, high compression, or 3.2 short stroke, or balance and blueprint, etc., etc. Well, both options are quite expensive. Which one, if you had, I assume he's meaning if you had to choose one, which one would you go with? And JP, thank you for asking the question. Dave, you want to go first?
Well, I think the way that question phrased, there's a lot of qualifiers that need to go along with that to determine what the real answer is going to be. What do you want to really use the car for? Is it purely as a flip? You're asking the question, or what do you want to use it for? Horsepower on Porsches is expensive to get. If you want to try to take your base car and turn that car into something that's substantially more powerful motor wise, you are going to spend a ton of money on that car. Lightning is way cheaper, obviously. You can, take stuff out and improve your power to weight ratio on the car, but it's a function of what you're trying to do because it's just very expensive to you spend $50,000 to build a motor that's got more serious grunt to it, and we build those all the time, and I'm certainly happy to do it. But what's the use? I need one more question answered before I can really answer that. If you were just flipping the car, then um, lighten it. Don't build the motor. Go ahead, Paul.
I mean, I would just say, let's just assume the guy bought a nice driver and wants to drive it and have experience.
Mhm.
We'll just assume that. Um, my philosophy is most people who want more power or they're going to do lightweight or all these things, they're probably not a good enough driver just to drive it fast the way it is. And they should probably go to the track, go to a driving school. But let's just say they're really a competent driver. In my opinion, and let's first make sure the car is sorted. Like I see these people do engines or they do these lightweight panels, and meanwhile they got shit brakes on the car. The suspension bushings are shot. The transmission grinds. But let's just assume it's a good car. The first place I would spend money uh, is tires. The number of cars that have shitty tires on the car. Put good tires. If it's a G body, the Michelin Pilot Sport All Season fours are the best tires. And that's because the summer tire Michelins, they don't have the modern compound still. One day they will have that, but I've tried all of them. Those are good. And
That's
then I
what
would
I
do,
have on my 964, Paul.
they're great tires. I have it on my 928, my green 911, and any other 16-inch wheel car I could put it on. The other thing is a really good suspension. And most of the big problem with the suspension is not the parts, but who puts it in. Someone who actually knows how to tune suspension. You can buy a really nice Bilstein kit, pretty off the shelf from Tire Rack. That's budget. You can go to Olin's and KW. You don't need to do triple adjustable motons. You don't need to do remote reservoir shit. Just a good, in fact, I almost like the strut insert setup and put all new bushings. Anything that's suspension, put new factory rubber bushings. You'll be shocked at how good the car is. So that's my answer to that question.
I agree with Paul. It depends on how beat the rest of the car is, but making sure the engine is performing as it was when it's stock. Maybe if you need to want to wake it up and make it feel a little bit more livable, maybe do a little bit of a lighter weight flywheel and a fresh clutch in the car. Make sure it's not leaking any oil, and then suspension and tires is where I go.
Yep. And if he's asking about lightweight engine, neither one of those appeal to me. I mean, how lightweight can you make it to make a difference from a driving standpoint on the road versus a compromise standpoint?
Just a fresh motor in general on a lot of these cars is sometimes all you need. You put a fresh motor in one that's tired that you've bought, man, it'll wake that car up a lot, right? Especially if you're, replacing pistons and stuff like that with Euro pistons. I mean, I'm not sure if we answered that question appropriately because I'm not sure what the objective was. Which one should he do is kind of the way.
Yeah, and I
Which
think
one is going
we
to
all said neither.
yeah, it just depends on the use case. Are you trying to do it to drive the car better, have more fun driving it, or are you trying to maintain value? What are the real reasons? But if it's to drive it, I'd do a lot of other things before I'd throw money at a big motor build because I think there's limits to how fast you can drive those cars anyway, based on no matter what you do, and I just think that you could spend a lot more money to get a lot more fun out of that car without putting a big motor in it.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep, 100%. Because every time you change something, you compromise the overall design even more. So if you make it lighter, then it's going to be louder, and then are you ever going to want to be in it because it's like you're rolling around in a trash can. It's so loud. There's all those types of things. But what I would do personally if I were thinking about I've done plenty of projects. If you don't want a money hole, go make this car as nice as you can, consign it with one of these guys, and then use that money and put it towards something that's going to maybe somebody already, like the blue car Paul was just talking about. Find something that someone's already invested a ton of money in. I'll tell you, the car I can't stop thinking about is the car that Paul's in disagreement with the owner about. It's essentially a high-end tribute to a 2.73, 911 RS. That for, around 200 grand, 180 grand, whatever it is. You can't replicate that. And there's other cars out there that are like that because for those long hood cars, the G bodies on back, the buyer pool for those is shrinking. It just is. You can look at the sales. And so find something that someone's already essentially done all the right things to and put all the right money into. There you go. Buy Paul's orange car. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what I would do.
Yeah, I love that car.
And nothing steers better than an earlier 911.
So
Nothing.
there's a lot of questions we didn't get to. We'll prioritize those on the next Full Throttle Talk. We'll get to those questions first. I have to go take a bathroom break, and I'm sure you guys do as well. Yes, I know, Paul, because you've been cheating. Don't you think we haven't been noticing? We've been WhatsApping about you noticing when you lean this way or that way. But in your defense, are you in a wheelchair right now, or what are you sitting in?
No, I'm sitting in my desk chair, but I've got my Ferrari. Well,
Oh
here,
God. All right, fine.
here, look at that.
There
we
it
go.
is.
There it is.
How many miles are on that,
Oh
Paul?
my gosh, you weren't
Put
kidding.
too many
Ferrari.
miles
I thought
on
he
it,
was kidding too.
That's going to decrease
No,
the value if you get
I
too many laps
wasn't.
around the kitchen with that thing.
I wasn't kidding. This thing is. I got my grabber.
It's got the Dave upholstery
One.
on the seat.
Let's look at
Oh
that.
yeah.
That's pretty trick.
It
It's
is.
got the it's got the
Pantera.
Tim Fender shields.
Look at
It's
that.
got
Oh
it's got
man.
all Cantera seats.
Deviated stitching. Lovely. Look at that.
Woo, look
So,
at that. Okay.
All right,
That's classy.
that's officially ending on a high note. All right, so listen, listeners, thank you for helping us accomplish we actually didn't have much of a stated goal when we started this thing, but it turns out that you guys like listening to us yammer, and the feedback and the level of appreciation and gratitude we're getting from doing this podcast is, frankly, for me, it's overwhelming. Paul and I started this as a bit of a hobby, not even a year ago, and it's really grown into something that I wouldn't even have dreamt of it going in the direction that it is. Paul, I think you'll probably agree. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed this. So listen, if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, please give us a follow. Help us get the word out. Encourage us to continue setting aside this much of our lives for the sake of spending a couple hours a week with all of you. Thank you for keeping Full Throttle Talk one of the most listened to daily podcasts for car nerds all over the world. We're picking up listeners all over the world. It's just absolutely mind-blowingly amazing. And guys, thank you for spending the time with me today. I sincerely appreciate it. God bless everyone. Have a fantastic week.